Yeah. I don't think so. Marty will tell us if there is, but I don't think there is. Yeah. Yep. Okay, Stephanie. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd ask Commissioner Yseth to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Want to welcome everybody to our meeting this morning, and yes, we are a couple minutes late in starting, and that's we've had some computer glitches, and then we also discovered that for the benefit of everyone present with us today, that we give you the hard copies of the agenda, and for some reason the middle page got missed, so we apologize for that, but we've got it all taken care of. At this time, is there any citizens with us, or I don't see any, but that would like to make a comment or schedule a time with us? I guess not. We do have our approval of the agenda and our consent agenda items. Are there any, on the behalf of the commissioners or any staff, is there anything that needs to be added or deleted from today's agenda? If not, we'll approve the agenda as published. We'll go on to item number 6, our consent agenda items. We've all had an opportunity to review those in our packets, and for those of you visiting with us via the media, you've had an opportunity to look at them in our published agenda as well. The minutes, the travel, education, personnel action notice, and approval. If there are no changes without objection, we'll approve the consent agenda as published. We'll move on to
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I did have a question, although I see Mike isn't here, but typically do we do, in the Human Services report, typically, I have not noticed before that we've done insurance.
Let me see. Can you pull up the claim number?
It was about the last one. Mm-hmm.
Okay, here it is in front of us.
Yeah, that one. I wonder I guess maybe he's not here, but I guess I would like some clarification on that one.
Yes, would you, let's defer the approval of the consent agenda until Mr. Holzhauser can be up here and explain it to us. I think I know, but I don't want to make a statement.
I think I do too, but I just would like to have that explained.
Yeah. And Stephanie, I believe you're getting a hold of him now, so okay. Okay, we'll, for the sake of time, we'll move on with our routine business. And yes, you do. Commissioner Falken, are you avoiding buying donuts? Okay. Item number 7, we'll start with our routine business. And item A is the approval of the claims.
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Miller. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Krogman. Any comments, questions from the board? Are there any clarifications that any staff members feel that they should make in regards to the claims that are submitted? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Yseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falken?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Item B is our annual meeting is required according to SDCL 10-3-14 with our Director of Equalization to discuss the performance of her duties. Joyce, would you like to come forward?
Good morning.
Morning.
I think this is usually in April, be it noted, because you did a review in December, January, but I'll let you have at it.
Well, what we're doing today, Joyce, is complying with state statute. And we do have our annual performance review, which you're well aware of and which has been done. And this is an opportunity to comply with the statute as well as if there are any commissioners that have any questions of you. And so we thank you for coming and being here for this purpose. But commissioners, anybody have any questions regarding? Okay, then it would be so noted that we held our little annual meeting and there are no questions at this time.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. What, Joyce? Don't run so far away. Next item is item C, Department Head Reports. As long as you're here, we'll let you go first.
Okay, very, very short brief this morning. Last week I went up and assisted Brian Gatsky at an appraisal class at SDSU. It was a very interesting experience, and none of the students fell asleep, so I thought that was a pretty good thing. But I really pumped county government and the advantages of, if you're interested in appraisal work, the benefits of working for county government with regular hours, a regular paycheck, very good benefits, and there were lots of nods of the heads. So working for county government in an interesting profession versus hanging out your own shingle and not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. So I did get some response on all of that. It was an interesting afternoon to do that. County boards, it looks to me like you don't probably need to plan on the whole morning. It's going to be very brief. So we will run through the reports next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. We have 3 scheduled appointments around 10 o'clock, and all 3 of these are appeals from our office back to the county board. So it's based on decisions that local boards made. I think one person may attend, and the other 2 will probably not even be here. So 3 appointments scheduled, and the rest is just a regular business that needs to be taken care of with the reports and the corrections. So I wouldn't plan on the whole day next week. It'll be pretty short and sweet. So any questions for our office?
You're assuming noon? Be done by noon, probably 1
Oh,
o'clock?
I'd say probably 11.
11?
Mhm.
Okay.
If not before that. So any other questions?
Questions for Joyce? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dick? Our highway superintendent?
Good morning.
Good morning, Dick.
Well, we got a few brief things. One, last week when I was gone on vacation, we had an unfortunate snowplow tip over, and it was fortunate that no one got hurt. However, we're working on finding out the extent of the damage and whatever, but just so you're aware of what happened. Also, the DOT sends out their annual agreement if we would like to exchange our STIP funds, which are your Federal Surface Transportation Program dollars. Our allocation is for 2014 is $232,320.75. I would recommend that we just leave it in there, because generally we always have enough program, projects in the program, and you're gonna have to come up with them one way or another, that it just makes sense to leave it there. The one big difference is if you decide to trade them for state dollars, then you're not required to follow federal guidelines like you would in the STIP program. However, most of ours are used for bridge reconstruction or replacement, bigger road projects like North 77, and it's a good idea to have those guidelines in place, I think, because it makes sure that you get a good quality project. So if that meets with your approval, I would just like to disregard signing that agreement to exchange. It makes no difference dollar-wise, it's just, it stays in their pool out in Pier, and then when we have a project, that's where the money comes out of for our share. And then later on in the program here, I think we'll have our backhoe bid, so I'll just wait till that point. Next week, I'll be attending the NACE conference down in Louisiana, and that's a national conference, which is should be very beneficial. We still have our load limits in place. We're having some good weather to bring the frost out, but I always like to make sure that we're done seeing any moisture weeping up through the road surface before we take those off, just as a precautionary measure. Other than that, I don't have anything further unless you have any questions or whatever. Tom?
Not a question. All of us attended the Chamber Legislative Report, and following that, all the different government entities get together. The city said something that kind of grabbed my attention, was that they're concerned about the location of the street department, and I heard the county mentioned on that, so I'm just preparing you that something may bubble up out of that. And just a question, I walk my dog through the park and take different angles. Who owns that land directly to the east of our fence?
You probably need somebody other than me to answer that. There was some trade with 4-H and whatever. Are you aware of it? So I don't know who actually owns it now. And part of it is road right-of-way, isn't it? Didn't they abandon part of a road to accommodate?
Well, it's like a huge parking, well, nothing. There's some stuff sitting out there like gravel and some block and different things. And then there's that drainage pond that they must have put in for the living center, I suppose. And,
right.
So I was just kind of curious because if they do come around, do we have room? Do we not have room? Do we need to look at that, or can we go south or whatever? But they just mentioned it, and I just want you to be aware of it and be just thinking when you're driving to your next spot that how that would work if we can accommodate a common sense solution. But
yeah, I'll have to check to see who does actually own that. That used to be 4-H, though, I believe. Before Beta came.
County always owned the property.
And we still own it. We lease it to Beta, right. But to the east where he's talking, Don, wasn't there something transferred when they did that living center or whatever, or not?
We done some transfers, and Dick, I honestly would have to go out there and look at the old records to see where the actual boundary is.
Okay, because from our standpoint now, as we're getting closer to construction, Beta, for example, will have limited parking just as everybody else will out there, but that would be a very usable spot if we would have access to it, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, there's a, see where we go now. There, see that right just to the east, there's a big open area, and then further south, there's a drainage pond, but there's
right there,
right where that.
All this has got junk out there, like, and some of it's open. right where you're just below your arrow. All that area's got block and some gravel and this and that, and yeah. So I don't know what the plans are there or whatever, but just wondering, and because we are kind of confined, and so if we had a partner there, we need some elbow room. And maybe there's no savings, but there is savings, sharing of diesel fuel, or with a card or something, and purchasing of gravel and salt and.
Yeah.
Dick, is your new building going just to the north, right there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And right where their buses are parked, up with your, right there. That is, between those two, that line right by the buses, that's pretty much where the boundary is of where the building will fit in there.
So we have, that area to the east is all gonna be full, but we've got towards the tracks there and stuff, there's a lot of stuff.
I don't know I thought they were gonna move, see, they've started dismantling their substation that's over by Western Avenue, right north of our office. That's all dismantled now, and I thought they were gonna move that east, but I haven't stopped over at utilities to ask them and whatever, but that would be something else that might go in there, because would have been nice to move our building a little farther north to give us some room, but that's city property there, so. But anyway, we'll just keep it open. We'll try to find out whose is whose. So, but other than that.
What we need to do is determine our east boundary line, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what surprises me, because, they put that fence in there that wasn't there before, and I don't know the story behind that, why they determined that was the place they should be if that was our land, so I'm with you, Don. I think we need to look a little closer before we make a...
Yeah.
Well, looking at the boundary, though, it belongs to the ULC.
If you're going by the yellow line, though, it cuts off their building too, so something's not right there. Yeah, okay.
And if my institutional memory serves me correct, I think that we've got our fence on the boundary, or thereabouts.
Okay.
Dick, you said you're heading to a national conference?
Yes.
Okay. I guess what I would, keep an eye out for us, for our input, for our strategic planning of issues that you're seeing around the nation that could affect us 5-10 years down the road, that maybe we could be planning for, or different types of technology that's coming out there to be more efficient with different things like that. Because we'll have our strategic planning coming up, and we'll want to talk with you and want your input of all that type of stuff. So
sounds good.
we appreciate
Yep.
that.
Other questions for Dick? Okay, thanks, Commissioner. Yes.
I did, Mike is out of the office today, but he did respond via email if you wanted me to tell you about the Human Services report.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Yes, you can, then we can go back to our consent agenda.
Well, first, his response was that the person who's on the report has lost their insurance, and if we don't pay the insurance premium during that time, then we will have a large poor relief bill for an emergency hospitalization while the person is still in medical care. And Irene's response was that they have done this in the past, but it's been many years ago, only if the patient needs to keep the insurance for a few months until they get back on other plan, and it's cheaper than paying a hospital bill. So that was their responses to it.
And I was sure that's what it was. It's been many, many years since, or in my memory, that we've had this kind of a situation, but it's a situation where someone is financially unable to pay an insurance premium. At the same time, they have a major medical expense, and it's to the advantage of the county and the taxpayers to pay the premium for a short period of time versus another large expenditure. Any other questions regarding that? Then, without objection, we'll approve the consent agenda and move on to our department heads. So we're going down the line. Marty, do you have anything you'd like to bring up? Okay, thank you. Mr. Hill.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The NACO seminar webinar went well on March 27th, last week. The next PPCC pod meeting will be on Thursday, April the 10th, over at the Avera Medical Clinic this time. It does look like the PPCC/pod is going to stay mainly focused on the hospital instead of the county having to take it over, because it is a Department of Health committee, and it's leaning all the letters of to use, like the Swift Health Center for the PPCC operations, are all going to go through the hospital board. So this is an update. Brookings County Planning Commission is missing a board member, and later today you will be requested to take action on a submittal on that. Our hazmat plan grant application was approved for the LEPC. First District will be updating our plan, and once again later on you've got a letter to approve that at a later time. Our pre-disaster mitigation plan letter was received back from FEMA, and the good thing is they actually added an extra year to it. It took us a year to get all the official resolutions done. So now our pre-disaster mitigation plan is good until 2019, which is good for us. We won't have to start updating the one we got now until 2017 or so. And with that kind of time frame, it's possible that we'll be able to update it in-house this time instead of having to go out-of-house. But we'll see. Last time they had changed the format so much, it was impossible for us to update it. Governor's Day is Wednesday afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon, and I'll be taking an hour or two off to go over there and participate in those events. And on April 15th, there's a Veterans Conference over at South Dakota State University, and I've been asked, I'm also the chairman of the Military Affairs, Veterans Affairs Chamber of Commerce Committee, and I've been asked to go over and sit on a panel on the 15th in the afternoon, so I'll be over there for an hour or two. April 16th, next Wednesday, I believe it is, we've got a tabletop exercise at our Emergency Operations Center. It's going to be a 2-hour exercise from beginning to end, 9 to 11. This is going to be a precursor to our full state exercise on May 15th. It's going to be an exercise on tornadoes. We're going to bring the EOC together. It's going to be a county-city combination type thing. Tomorrow I'm going to a department head meeting and want to invite the department heads in. If they don't want to sit at the table, that's fine, but they're welcome to sit in the audience and see. Being a tabletop, it gives us a good opportunity to talk through a lot of different scenarios on what's going on, what could happen, and what kind of help are we going to need. And then on May 15th, that's going to be run as a real EOC, and hopefully from the tabletop we'll determine who probably needs to be there on May 15th, and we'll invite them back to the May 15th one. So any commissioner and the public's invited to the one on the 16th. The one on the 15th, May 15th, we'll be using our EOC protocol, whereas if the press wants to come in, we'll have a media room set up, and we'll have set times for media release, and we'll do it just like if it was a real incident on May 15th. But the 16th is open to anybody that wants to observe. We've invited the PPCC and the pod group to come in and just as observers watch and see how we do it. So I'll be out of town for the next commission meeting. I'll be in the real tornado alley. I'm in Oklahoma City. Let's hope. And speaking of tornadoes, last week we had a blizzard warning. I was doing all kinds of paperwork for the state of South Dakota, part of our state and local agreement. You have to send reports on road status and all that. All of a sudden an email pops up, tornado warning in Brookings. So I got on the National Weather, I called the National Weather Service. We found out it was rotating just south of Bruce, heading towards Bruce. So we set the sirens off in Bruce. And then we had some traffic through the sheriff's office, and I turned my radio on. Bottom line, between me and the sheriff, we're gonna request, I wanted to have Sioux Falls two-way come up and take a look at the radio in my office. It doesn't work. I get the county fire radio. I was listening to hailstorm reports on a handheld. I was trying to reply back, couldn't get out. I had to run outside, set the little smoking table outside to get hold of dispatch and find out what was going on. And by then, the whole thing had blown over, you know. So it would be nice if I could at least have the communications in the office, and, you know, the way the building's built, we'll just have to say, we're gonna have to, I can't, thank goodness it wasn't hail in Brookings when it was happening, because I would have really been in trouble then, but, I think it's a workable situation. The sheriff came over and saw what I've got, and it's beyond our scope, I think, is what we figured out between me and the sheriff, and so we're gonna have to get some help out here to fix on that one. And other than that, and the last but not least, the key word for this year is resilient communities. I think NACO and everybody else, well, now the federal government's come in on that, and we've got some emergency management stuff coming up, and several different, they call them days of action throughout the year, and the code word for emergency services is prepare-a-thon this year. So you'll start to see some stuff. I just got the email today, so we'll start breaking it down. Hopefully get some of the schools involved and the community involved. And we did a little bit of this last year, and it didn't go very far. And last but not least, since we had tornadoes and blizzards last week, tomorrow the temperatures are going to be in the 70s, and it's going to be like a red flag day just about for fires. So tomorrow would not be a day to be lighting any fires out in the country. Any questions?
Bob, you had the email that you sent out. Are you going to be coming back to us with that Lake Ponset siren situation, or have you talked to all the players in that?
Well, I've got our response, what I feel our response is. I haven't been in contact with the state park yet, but I need to.
Okay.
That's, the manager up there is Dan Sternhagen, I believe is his name, and I'll have to touch base with him and get all the responses I got back from it has been that since it's technically Watertown's response area, up in that area, for us to go ahead and let, it's not that we're giving any of our authority away, it's just that that's where the lake is and everything else, and let them set the sirens off.
Do you know how many they're putting in, or were?
They're putting 4 sirens in. 4. One in Brookings, one would be physically in Brookings County, one would physically be in Kingsbury County, and 2 will physically be in Hamlin County. So that's why they had a meeting of all of our emergency managers of the area, all the different counties.
That one in Brookings County will be close to the park area.
Be right in the park area, correct.
So it'll cover that section, okay.
And Kingsbury County's got, is it Lake Thompson, I believe it is? They've got a siren in their, that they put in their lake, and they set it off at the thunderstorm area, time frames because of the park. And then Oakwood Lakes is going to be getting a siren, it might be a year or 2 down the line, but they've even got community support within the Oakwood Lakes area, housing area, to help finance a siren up there. I don't know how far that'll go, but yeah. So sooner or later, we're going to have a siren in Oakwood, and then that's when I think we're going to have to make a decision on the severe thunderstorms. You know, it's our policy not to set the alarms off in the severe thunderstorm. When we set the alarm off last week in Bruce, I was getting calls from Sinai, Elkton, well, why isn't the sirens going off? Well, the tornado's not in your area. Typically when the tornado warnings are in Brookings County, I get hold of the National Weather Service. I tell them to cut through the BS and tell me where's the rotating, because they got the images, they can tell me what a rotation is. That's where we set the sirens off on the people that's in danger. Just because there's a warning in Brookings County, we don't set all the sirens off at once, because you're causing undue, we don't want to cause a heart attack when it's not necessary.
Okay. Any other questions for Bob? And to our viewing audience and to our board, and we're on time for a hearing, but at our EPA meeting, our chairman is from Greensburg, Kansas, and we're talking about climate change and the unusual weather patterns that we're having, and of course he's down in Tornado Alley, and they lost their entire town, and that tornado was 2 miles wide. And it was so large that the first wave went through and people started crawling out of their basements and stuff thinking it was over, and they looked and here's the second half of that big funnel cloud coming. So we'll talk about that later. Ladies and gentlemen, we're a couple minutes late, but at 9:30 we do have a regular scheduled agenda item that is the public hearing on the application for a sale of alcoholic beverages, so we will recess briefly as from our meeting, then I'll get to you. Then this time we'll open a public hearing on the application or approve an application made by Cubbies at Arlington Beach Resort for a retail on-off sale malt beverage and retail on-off sale liquor license. This regards to Lake Ponset Heights, Outlot A, and east 112 feet of B, and including Outlot C and subdivision of government lots 2 and 3. At this time, we would ask that there be any opponents to the issuance of this license to please come forward and speak to us. Any opponents? A last call for any opponents to the issuance of this license, transfer of this license. Hearing no opponents, are there any proponents in the audience that wish to speak to this? Any proponents? Seeing no one wishing to come forward as a proponent, we will close the public hearing and bring it to the table for action. On behalf of this board, at this time the chair would entertain a motion to approve the application of Cubbies at Arlington Beach for the transfer of that license. Moved by Commissioner Krogman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Yseth.
It's for the malt beverage license on-off sale, or for both the on-off sale malt beverage and the liquor license?
Both.
Both.
Both, okay.
It's not, and it's just on-sale liquor license only. The
Right,
county.
on-sale liquor. but
On-sale
there's
liquor and then on-off-sale malt beverage.
Two
It's
licenses there.
the same licenses that Arlington Beach Resort holds currently. It's just a transfer of the two
Yeah,
current
we're-
licenses.
We're transferring from Arlington Beach Resort to
Okay.
that
Both
corporate
licenses.
name to Cubbies. At this time, out of courtesy, Sheriff Stanwick, do you have any comments regarding this?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments from our board members? Hearing none, assume you're ready to vote. Please call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falken?
Aye.
Yseth?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now we'll get back to our schedule and our department heads, and I apologize. I should have had you first so you could get back downtown to work, but we'll take your health and human service
Sometimes
report
fun to
now.
listen to other things in the county,
Okay.
so it's okay. My name is Jenny. I'm again one of the community health nurses here in Brookings. We've been pretty busy the last couple months. Our school services are completed. Yay! I know Melissa is considering maybe doing those in the fall at the beginning of the school year, but with me possibly going to be gone a few months next fall due to maternity leave, that we may again push those back to late winter, early spring, so we can have 2 nurses at those schools at that time. But we'll see if she wants to do it on her own. She sure can. Otherwise, we'll do them again kind of the same time of year. We also have held a free TDAP clinic in March at Mickelson, and we invited all the area schools to come to that. Also with SDSU, we had a couple students come and interview us, and that's always kind of fun. Also, and then they go back and present that information to their classmates. So it's fun because we know that it's also getting WIC out into the community past our walls. Also, a fun thing we've had is Katie, who is our breastfeeding peer counselor. She's joined our WIC team. She is a WIC client herself who has breastfed a couple clients, so she's strictly just a peer counselor for those breastfeeding moms. She's available days, evenings, weekends, holidays, pretty much any time of the day, any time of the week. So it also, like I said, gives those breastfeeding moms extra support if they have questions to call. And again, if she can't answer those questions, then she refers them to Melissa or myself or a lactation consultant in the community. So that's been kind of fun. Promoting that, and I know Katie's had a good time with that also. But that's kind of what we've been up to the last few months. Any questions?
Questions, board members? Just
All
keep
right.
up the good work.
All right, thank
And
you.
like I always say, the WIC program is probably one of the best programs that federal government ever came up with.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've covered our department heads. We'll catch you two later. Stacy, Finance Office report?
I don't have anything, I guess, going on. We have elections going on today, so busy day.
The only thing you got is one real sore toe.
I do have a sore toe, yes.
Without a nail. Okay, we have action to approve an automatic supplement in the amount of $36,000 from the Sheriff's Department grant reimbursement. Chair would entertain a motion. Moved by Miller, second by Krogman. Discussion? Marty, you want to make comment about this?
That's the Attorney General's grant that we applied for replacing all our cameras in our cars, our video cameras. That come from the drug forfeiture fund.
Okay. No further questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Miller? Falken? Yseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So we move on in our schedule to item number 9, which is our regular business. Item A is action on agreement 1430, and this is made by Sioux Valley Energy to occupy 459th Avenue. We've got the information in our packet. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Falken, second by Yseth. Discussion, questions, comments? Pretty routine what we're doing. Please call the roll.
Falken?
Aye.
Yseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number B is, under 9, is action to approve our agreement 1431 with Otter Tail Power Company to occupy 286th Avenue. Once again, pretty standard. Chair would entertain a motion. Yseth and Miller. Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Yseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falken?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number C is Agreement 1432, which is a professional services agreement between Brookings County and Banner Associates for bridge inspections. For the purpose of discussion, the chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Falken, second by Miller. Discussion, I think we've got a pretty complete, detailed description of everything to be done in our packets, but yet somebody may have a question, if they would. Stephanie, did you have a question?
I just think it should be noted, if anybody's watching us on TV, I don't know if they do or not, that Brookings has many, many, many bridges, and it's very important for us to stay on top of their status of repair. And so, although this is expensive, it is a definite necessity for us to keep inspecting these bridges because there isn't a lot of money available for us to fix them, so we have to do them in order of disrepair.
Mm-hmm. Good comment. I think I mentioned yesterday, counties in South Dakota have 43% of the total miles of road and 63% of the bridges in the state. So, road and bridge is huge to county government. Dennis?
Dick, isn't it, by law, don't we have to inspect them every so many years? So it's also a law besides we need to do it for the purposes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falken?
Aye.
Yseth?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number D is action on agreement 1433, which is an agribusiness grant agreement between South Dakota DOT, Department of Transportation, and Brookings County. For discussion, chair would entertain a motion. Moved by Krogman, second by Yseth. Discussion.
Do you want me to review any information on this?
Yes, please.
We did follow up with the Department of Transportation about what would happen with the grant in the event that the project did not move forward, and she said it would simply lapse if it was not completed in the timeline specified in the grant. She also said that, as long as we're not expending anything towards the project, that we're going to seek reimbursement, then the county wouldn't be liable, obviously, for any repayment. I also visited with First District and confirmed that we relied on that infrastructure as part of the local match of the total project cost when we applied for the grant. And now that the railroad project is not going forward, or the spur that they were going to add, I wanted to confirm that that wouldn't impact what we noted as the local match, and they said we're fine with that as well. So it shouldn't be a problem if you approve it, and it's not going to change the conditions under which the grant was awarded.
Okay.
And Abby did review it for legal, if you want to hear from her too.
Abby, did you have any comments that you'd like to make? And for our viewing audience, Abigail Howard is our Deputy State's Attorney.
No, I don't have any concerns with it. As long as DOT stated to Stephanie what they did, I'm fine if we want to accept it at this point, considering the situation.
Okay. And I think we'll have a definite direction on the entire project in very, very short time. So,
Just looking at the document as far as any time frames, I see there's notice, 30 days notice to be. Well, I moved it now, but I saw 30 days notice on here.
page 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's kind of the only time frame in there that you're aware of?
Well, yes, and if it was in fact that this project was not going to proceed, I think it would be imperative that we do provide them that notice.
The other timeline that's noted in there is that it does state that the work would have to be completed no later than January 15th, 2016, but she did state to me when I talked to her that, there would always be the opportunity to request an extension to, if needed.
Yeah, and the developer is working very diligently to come to a decision in a very short period of time. And we just need to keep that open communication with DOT.
Yeah,
She did state to me I will probably have to do a project status update like I've been doing on the other grant that simply states we have not proceeded because we have not received the notice to proceed from the developer yet. So I'll have to do those same reports that I've been doing for the other grant that we already received, or that we already have been awarded, not received.
Right.
Just the fact that we're communicating with them, so it's not, they don't hear anything in 6 months and all of a sudden we say we don't need it. They're just assuming right now it's not moving until we make a change in the status. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Good questions, though. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Miller?
Aye.
Falken?
Aye.
Yseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number E is action to approve the pay request number 1 in the amount of $15,345 for the vehicle storage building at the Highway Department.
So moved.
Moved by Miller, second by Krogman. Discussion. Dick, do you have any comment regarding this?
No, it's all been approved and we're aware of it. Doug Wessel's reviewed it, so
Okay.
it's just the first pay.
Okay. Any other staff reports, finance officer, anybody, questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Falken?
Aye.
Yseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number F is the action on to award the bid for the rubber tire backhoe, and I think everybody's got that in their packet. And at this time, Chair would entertain a motion. Moved by Krogman, Second by Falken. Discussion, board members?
I think you're noting that the low bid was received, the bid award recommended is from Titan Machinery for $100,700. And if you need Dick and Abby to speak to the note on there that there was no bid bond received, my understanding is it wasn't required as part of the bid specs, but they were the low bidder on the bids received.
Yeah.
That's the only question I had when I reviewed it.
That was mine.
Questions?
That was my question.
That was your question? That was your question, okay.
I guess
Was
just
that your question?
Well, just clarification on that, it's legal to do it either way. I mean, customarily, there is a bid bond with a bid, but some of these for equipment, maybe it's not.
Yeah, it can vary. I think in the future, we'll always include that, just so that everyone's on the same page. It's getting to be more and more common as you spec your equipment. If they meet those specs, you're pretty much assured that they'll have to comply. The big difference is, and I think Abby would agree, is you really have no leverage should they decide not to honor the contract if we don't have the bid bond. At least with the bid bond, we'd have the ability to go back on them for that. But again, it's just one of those things that I didn't put in this time, and we'll just include it from now on. We've always done it in the past. It was probably just an oversight on my part that, you know.
We could put them on the same playing field because a bid bond does cost you money, I assume.
It does. It's not as expensive as a performance bond, but it's
Right,
still not
so
free.
these other two paid for a bid bond, yeah, that
Right.
would be the difference.
And I would just note that state statute doesn't require bid bonds for equipment purchases versus the property purchases or things of that nature, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, commissioners?
Have we ever gone through a situation where they haven't performed and the bond is kicked in?
No. And I don't think, probably the closest we could have came to that would have been with the building, when the low bidder was so extremely low, and we would have held them to that amount. It could have turned into a discussion very seriously about, because they made an honest mistake, so to speak, so.
Well, my thought is, if those bid bonds cost, they're gonna put that in their, cost, and if we're never gonna, I shouldn't say never gonna use it, we always could, but it's costing us more money. The bids are coming in higher.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to do them all bid bonds, or would it make more sense to do no bid bonds since it's not required, and we've never gone through the process where they can't complete?
I guess that would be debatable, and we've got an excellent assistant state's attorney that would help in that matter, so I'm sure she would gladly get us out of a pickle. But no, in reality, I think most of these implement companies and whatever have kind of like a standing bond, and they just make a call. It's not free, believe me, but it's not as I wouldn't call it a burden, or I don't think it's adding 10% to our cost of our equipment. And the other side is, it might be a little overkill, but it's better to be, err on the side of safety in case there would ever be a problem. You'd want to make sure that you had a little leverage on them. So, does that help? And Abby would probably be a better person to ask if.
Well, and if it's, if it's costing, the bids are, $4,000 or $5,000 higher because of it.
Oh, yeah.
If they're a couple $100, then it's probably, over a year, you're maybe costing an extra $500 or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably worth it then. But if the bids are, like, for example, the RDO equipment bid would have been different if they wouldn't have had it. It may have been the low bidder. Now we're talking a difference of $2,000 that do that over 4 or 5 times a year, and, we're talking a little more money.
Right. A little bit further on that too, Ryan, would be, should our specs have stated that, then we definitely would have had to throw out the low bid because they didn't include it, so.
Yeah.
Everyone satisfied? Okay. No further discussion. Dick, any further comments? Okay?
No, just other than that, the way the bids came in, John Deere was very attractive. That was probably for myself and Bull Foreman, that would be their number one choice for which one to purchase, which would be in the best interest. Again, we've checked over everything 2-3 times and case meets all specs.
Okay?
We don't have that latitude, right?
Pardon?
We don't have that latitude, it's basically low bid. Yep.
What was your budget number for this? You remember?
This was a little bit higher, Dennis, because we changed. We were originally going to be the road grader. So there's like double this amount in the budget.
Okay. Further questions? Please call the roll.
Yseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falken?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Under regular business, number 9, item G is action on agreement 1434, agreement between First District Association of Local Governments and Brookings County for the development of a hazardous materials plan. Chair would entertain a motion. Moved by Krogman, second by Yseth. Discussion? Bob, do you need to make any comments? I think we're all pretty familiar with what we're doing here and what's going on.
This is the hazmat grant that I discussed with the board at the last county commission meeting, where the local emergency planning committee chairperson had applied for this grant. We have received the grant, and now this allows us to get this is the First District's quote-unquote contract to start to work on the plan.
Everybody understand? Thanks, Bob. Please call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falken?
Aye.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number H under regular business is action to appoint a volunteer to the Brookings County Planning and Zoning Board representing District 1. We have one application. It's been your report. Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Moved by Miller, second by Yseth. Discussion?
I would just note that
Staff report, Stephanie?
I would just note that we did receive 2 additional applications. However, they were from within the city limits, and so they were not eligible for appointment. I did personally contact them to let them know, and they understood and were fine with that too, so.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I guess I'd just like to comment, this is a young lady, and I am thrilled to think that, one, a young person, and secondly, female, is interested in county government, and especially a board like that, because that is a difficult board, I feel. And so I really commend her for stepping up and putting in her application.
Okay.
I don't want to scare you away from her, but she's a former student of mine and was a very good student and took part in leadership at Brookings and is very active in the community and county, and so I think she'll be good.
Well, as long as we're endorsing her, I serve with her on the Government Affairs Committee, and she's very active in the committee too. So, Dennis, did you have a? Okay.
I went to high school with her dad.
Ryan, you're the last one.
Yeah, I served with her on the BDC and stuff like that.
Okay.
And the planning commission was take any breathing body, by the way. No, we would welcome her if the board so wishes to approval.
Okay. Please call, Tom, did you have something?
No, I'm good.
Please call the roll.
Miller?
Aye.
Falken?
Aye.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, item number I is action to approve agreement 1435 between Election Systems and Software LLC and Brookings County for our hardware maintenance and support fees. Chair would entertain a motion. Yseth, and second, Falken. Second, Falken. You get your hand up quicker. Okay. Discussion, please. Anything from staff? Stephanie?
I just want to note that if you also note in the agenda, as part of that agreement, there is also a purchase order on there, just noting that the part of that agreement includes the purchase order for the maintenance agreement. It's the same thing, it's included in there, but I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that in there.
Stacy, you got some comments?
Other than, not really other than what I had put in for your packets, it's a 4-year agreement. The cost is not going up for that, for the next 4 years, what it's been the last 4, I believe. But then I know Abigail Howard did note that it does automatically renew after that 4-year term annually, and so I'll have to note that. I've noted that, and we'll watch that. This is the company that we've used since I've been around, and I've been more than happy with them, so.
Okay.
Is there a notice to give to automatic 1 year after that, if you give a notice to not be involved, or?
If we do not want to be involved, we give notice to them to terminate the agreement. We can do that.
So it's not, doesn't go on forever, the
Right.
1 year thing, so.
Yep. We can end that agreement, I think, at any time with notice given.
The bronze coverage is good enough, instead of the gold and silver. I mean, it's just extra.
Yeah,
And
I've been
satisfied with the way.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Falken,
Aye.
Yseth,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
motion carried.
We're just a minute or so early, but that's fine. Mr. Wormers is here from Banner and Associates to discuss and give us an update on the 34th Avenue project. Brad, would you come forward, please? Introduce yourself to our viewing audience, and we'll proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Brad Wormers with Banner Associates. I'm kind of giving you an update. I think I sent you a narrative, if you had a chance to read that here, for the 34th Avenue project here. One thing, that came up here, this is probably, looking for maybe a decision from you guys on, is when the snow got off, it was probably first week to midweek of March here, we went back out there, established some section lines and some property corners that we needed, that we couldn't get last year because, we started the survey last fall, the snow came and kind of limited us what we could get out there. In the process, what we found out is we established our alignment, and we had some discussions with the power lines, because the power lines is definitely an issue that we're having out there. We talked to Sioux Valley here a couple weeks ago, and at that time they were saying, and we did find out there is an easement. Sioux Valley does have an easement in the right-of-way, BMU does not. So we had some discussions with Sioux Valley, and for them to move their power lines, like we're adjusting the alignment, would be a 6 to 8 month process, which I know there's concerns with timelines on this project here. And then BMU, of course, don't want to move their lines. There's definitely a cost factor with that. So we kind of approached this a couple different ways here. What if we carry the center line down the center line where it's at right now? Would BMU be okay with the power lines where they're at, and with Sioux Valley? They both would be. There's issues there probably with safety factor and things like that, but we had some discussions with them, and they're okay with that. One of the options we get out there, because, we originally talked about doing a 100-foot right-of-way out there. If we establish a 50-foot right-of-way on the west side where Sioux Valley's line is, they would enforce to move their power lines, and they'd want to be paid to do that. Plus, there's that 6 to 8 month process wait. BMU's okay leaving. They don't want to move their lines, as you understand. It's definitely a cost for them to do that, but they're okay leaving that the way it is. So, if we go down the center of basically where the road's at right now, there's still an option for the county to purchase right-of-way to get your 50-foot right-of-way on the east side where BMU's line is, and that process can happen, but we could still get this road built in the timeline we're trying to get this road built at. So maybe what I'm looking for you guys, a direction is, do you want to take that road down the center line where it is right now, in lieu of kind of what we talked about maybe last fall, about taking it to the west side and moving those power lines, knowing that those power lines are going to be impact the timeline of this project, understanding that the project needs to get done here this year for the proper funding that you guys are trying to go after. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And I don't know if you had a chance to read that narrative, I guess you have any questions, throw them at me, I guess.
So you're saying what would be the maximum width we could get where the power lines sit today?
You would leave, well, right now, Dennis, what you would do, you could get the road built with the 66 right-of-way, 66-foot right-of-way you have right now. Get that road built, and if you want to continue going after that 100-foot right-of-way, you can start purchasing right-of-way on the east side, because BMU is okay having their power lines in the right-of-way, because they do right now anyway, and so they're okay with that. The process to go to the west side where Sioux Valley's line is, they're not going to allow you to purchase right away without having to move their power lines.
Right.
So I guess you could, maybe your answer, Dennis, is you could keep the 66-foot right away the way it is right now, get your road built, then maybe worry about right away and things like that at a later date so you can get that road built this year. Because I know you guys are looking at doing the 100-foot right-of-way, which is still a great idea, but I think that could be a problem with trying to get this project done this year.
It's not customary to not have a right-of-way for your poles, though, normally, is it? I mean, BMU must have felt they didn't need a right-of-way?
Yeah, easement, you're probably talking about easement, Dennis, in the right,
yeah, easement,
You'd think that you would normally try to get that easement, but for whatever reason, when that was done, they didn't establish an easement for that right-of-way.
And theirs would be the more costly move, correct?
Oh, yes. We had a meeting with BMU and Sioux Valley actually last week. Here, got them both together and talked about it. And, they were throwing numbers out there right now, but, to move theirs, they're $1 million plus. And I don't know, I think that maybe came out of the top of their head a little bit here, but there's definitely you've seen the power lines, there's definitely a substantial cost to do that.
And they would move that cost towards us?
No. Well, see, they don't have an easement.
That's my point.
But even if you did take that direction, they wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
You still have a time issue here.
What did Sioux Valley think the cost would be on theirs?
Well, we talked to them last year, and there's like $85,000 a mile that we're looking at, and we approached them again this year. Well, they have some new code requirements now that they have to meet, so they're thinking $100,000 plus per mile, and we had like 1.2 miles or so, so you're talking probably $150,000 range at this time. And they do have to look at it a little. If this is something that they're going to do, they're going to have to look at that a little closer. One thing I do know is that we wouldn't be able, if they were going to move their power lines, we wouldn't be able to get probably this project done this year.
But the 66 feet is going to get us 2 lanes.
Yes. Oh yeah. I'll give you 2 lanes.
Two lanes with the ditch and the slopes.
Yes.
How much?
Yes.
How much shoulder?
And what we can do we can look at construction even, because I still want to get that flat bottom ditch instead of a V ditch. If there's a process of getting like just construction easements, outside that 66-foot right-of-way, and not actually do purchase more right-of-way to be able to do that. And I still think would want to do that, because I think it's important to have those flat ditches if we can get them.
And that'd be on both sides.
Yes.
And then earlier you mentioned safety, and that's the only one thing. You mean safety from the point of view of the utilities?
No, the safety part is for cars traveling at a certain speed. If they veer off, you got those power poles there. There's actually ways you can even help that out a little better. Is you can put curb and gutter all the way out there. But.
How much shoulder would be left?
The driving road, there's 2 13-foot lanes, Ryan. Then we have 3-foot shoulders. There's they call it a fog line. It's that white stripe on the outside of those lanes. Yep. Then we have like a 3-foot, another asphalt section there. Kind of a shoulder is what it is. Then with a little drop down at a 4-to-1 slope, and we'll put your ditches in.
How does that compare? I'm a visual person.
Mm-hmm.
How does that compare with 77, old 77?
It's very similar. I don't know. I can't recall 77 if there's a major. What you have out here on 34th, there's not a lot of ditch there. So
right.
It's going to probably be. I think 77 has more of a defined depth of a ditch here.
But how wide is the road?
Oh, the wide? Mm-hmm. I would say it's actually a little wider than that. And I know we did that, we redid that 77 a couple of years ago, and I just can't
Right.
recall what that was
Okay.
here, but it's, maybe Dick knows, and kind of show.
28 foot.
Yeah, did we have much, there wasn't much shoulder there, was there?
No.
No, so it's actually probably better,
So-
actually wider
So we
than
have a
what that
little
is.
more shoulder on this,
Yes.
a little bit narrower lane.
Yeah, because I don't think we had much shoulder on that 77
No,
broad.
there isn't much.
That's what concerns me with the shoulder.
Yeah, we're trying to get that 3-foot shoulder, which is a good shoulder, Ryan, for that.
Well, especially if the car breaks down or something,
Yeah.
there's at least a
Get
little
it
room
off.
to get off the
Well,
side.
there's a little bit of recovery too, you know, you get off that white line, all of a sudden you drop off in some
Right.
of those areas
I
here, where
agree.
you get a little bit more recovery there.
Totally agree.
Well, I would certainly like to have us been able to make a wider road out there, but I certainly understand the issues with. the
Well, I
other
think,
things
I don't know if we've really changed that, Dennis, I still think we got the road width we were always talking about. We don't have the
It's the
right-of-way that maybe you're
Right.
looking at doing, Dennis, at this time. But our road width really never changed from, you know, what our initial concept was on this.
We probably wouldn't do a turning lane then over on 20.
Well, we're gonna look at, you know, if we get some kind of, if we could determine if we're gonna go down the section line like I'm discussing here, then we'll look at that. I know there's some power poles that might have some conflicts, you know, but it's a lot easier moving one power pole than, you know, a whole mile and a half of power poles. But, and that's, you know, once we get direction here, that'll be our next step, is to actually get that road down the center line and see what kind of turning radiuses or turning areas we need. Because I just know there's might be some conflicts with some transformers here on 8th Street. I think there's some transformers that sit there. And I know there's some power poles in a couple areas, but that'd be what we'd have to look at.
So we have to have it done this year, and that is because of,
Our partners.
And we did have some conversations with some contractors. Our schedule was to have this out to bid first part of June, and so we wanted to get some contractors and kind of, you know, if this gets bidded in mid-June, and you can start construction in July, can you complete this job this year? And yes, they can. So.
Poor Donnie, that 100 feet just really brought you down, didn't it?
What?
That 100 feet brought you down. You got that sad look on your face.
Well,
No, I don't have a sad
and I
look, I
think
got
we
a concerned look.
And we still can work at getting that right away. I guess my concern around is getting this thing built this year, but you could still work on getting that, you know, we can put the H-plats together and start purchasing right away, you know, at least on the east side. And then on the west side, maybe a little different with those power lines, because they're gonna want an easement and have that moved prior to forfeiting some right away there, but.
Could we, Donnie, you've got two real estate people, do we have options or something? So down the road, we already have an option on that extra, what do we need, 33 to 50,
Well-
22 feet on each side? Can we do that, just so that way out there, we have something for a future county commission to hold?
Well, I think, you know, I think what we need to do is acquire the right-of-way, and we can create some kind of a document that, because they did poor planning or didn't do good business when they put in their line, BMU could stay there. I'm a little disappointed in the attitude of the rural electric, because they're a co-op, and we cooperate with them all the time. We did today, giving them right away permission to cross our property, and now we've got a project, and it sounds like their attitude is they don't want to cooperate.
Now, Don, this is us talking to them, you know, maybe there's just some other people maybe talking to them, we might get a little different response, but this is the response we got from them.
Well, my big concern is what's happening here is the fact that I think we need to own that right away before we start the project. And we can create the documents to allow those people to stay there, and we can do this portion of the project, but I think at the end of the day, we're gonna have a product that is not gonna be what the citizens really thought we were spending money on, and it's not gonna be the product that we thought we would have to serve well into the future. And so we need to protect the future of those businesses and our citizens and traffic safety. And we can do that if we were to own the right-of-way and have control over that, and then at some point in time, we can tell them that we need to expand this road or it needs to be changed and you'll have to move.
But we will own the right-of-way. I believe that we need to continue on with this project and go about the process of obtaining the right-of-way, but do it while we're doing this so that we can get this done in 2014, because if we delay and take the time that it will take to get those easements, to get that right-of-way, then this project won't get done this year. We lose $100,000 from our partners in either in-kind or cash. And I'm not willing to lose that much money for our taxpayers, and I believe that we can still build a safe road.
Tom?
Well, I kind of agree with you, Don, to a point. I think the citizens, if we got this road built, will be satisfied with the road. And I think the future citizens or future commissioners might be a little mad at us. So I think I look at proceeding and then making a goal of this commission for the future on a separate issue, and that would be obtaining the right of way. But right now, I think we had that done in October or something, driving down that road, the citizens going to be pretty doggone happy. And so.
Yeah, and I think the point being is that if we spend 6 months trying to purchase land for extending that and don't get it done, we're still going to build the road. I mean, the road's going to have to get built with what we have now. It'd be nice to have that extra, agreements for the rest of it, but if that all, I mean, we can't spend all our time doing that before we start the project. That'd be my, thought. We just go ahead with it, but with the idea that we want to get the additional right of way.
Yes, Tom?
That's off the right of way, but one last swing at this. I don't want to get into what the city got into, but concrete versus asphalt with the weight of those trucks out there.
The section will be designed either concrete or asphalt, whatever section we use, there'll be equivalents. If we had a concrete section out there and the asphalt section, theoretically, they're same, handle the same amount of load as either one here. The question is what's going to cost more. Honestly, I don't know until you get bids and things like that. My understanding, we were looking at asphalt. I mean, we're looking at that option to go concrete. I mean,
well, I just followed the city discussion,
right. Yes.
And since then, I've been informed more.
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's people that inform you. Yes.
Yeah, I think you're lying. And of course, I think it's easier for for us to maintain asphalt versus concrete. Is that correct, Dick? I mean, in 10, what's your cost? Your initial cost, then your 10-year cost, 20-year cost, and all that.
Yeah, there's definitely costs, and I don't have those with me right now. But there's a maintenance cost you got to look into. There's a lot of things that go at play with that. A lot of times you'll see asphalt come in cheaper than concrete. Well, then you got to look at the lifespan. Over 30 years, does it balance out? And there's software out there that you can look at that. Some kind of bias because concrete puts out theirs, asphalt puts out theirs, and you just got to weigh that a little bit. But no, we get plenty. We get all kinds of information. If it goes asphalt, we get the concrete guys calling. If it goes concrete, we get the asphalt guys calling us. But the bottom line is that the two sections, whatever, if we had equivalent sections, they're gonna support the same amount of weight. So there's a comparison that way. One thing, maybe one more thing to bring up, sorry, is at our meetings, and I think we talked about this last fall too, is right now, 34th has a sewer line that goes right down the center, sanitary sewer line. At our meeting we had with BMU here last week, they're wondering about water line. It was talked about, because there's a chance, if they do an overpass and things like that, there's a possibility of some future development out there that would need water line. If you don't do it now, the way the BMU's policy is right now, they need to have a hard surface over water line. How is that going to be handled, say 10, 15 years from now, if something gets developed out there and there's no water line? And honestly, we haven't even looked at that yet. We've talked about a little bit in the past. But to put water line out that 2-mile stretch, you're talking, $250,000 to do it, and who pays for that? But I just wanted to kind of bring that up again, just so I don't want to do something that we look back 10 years from now saying, boy, we should have had that water line in. But
maybe BMU would like to look at that in light of the fact that their poles are in our right-of-way with
Well,
no
it's
easement.
true. No, that's true. I mean,
Yes.
yes, give and take a little bit there.
Yes, I think
But
that
I
could
did
be
want to
their
just
cost.
point that out here. And we don't know when development's going to go out there.
And maybe I'm sleeping on the switch, but where are we at with the railroad grant?
The railroad, right now, it's going to probably happen is we're going to get some monies in 2015. So like this would how we handle this project here is we'd probably pave up to the tracks or short of the tracks. Let's get that done this year. Then when the monies come next year for the crossing and the gates and all that, they'd have to come back and we'd have to take care of it then.
Yes, question?
I was gonna ask about the railroad grant too, but also, did you guys have any problems with being able to incorporate those in-kind contributions into the bidding document so that it'll be noted when you go out to bid?
There's a way that we can handle that. We haven't
Okay.
got to that point yet, Stephanie, but you brought that up here, a
Okay.
few months ago here. That
I did
somehow
visit
some-
with Rod at Legislative Audit, and he said there have been other instances where they've done that, so he could maybe be a resource too if you need help
Okay.
incorporating that in prior
Okay,
to the
well,
bid documents.
Maybe we'll have some discussions with you, Stephanie,
Okay.
on that, and kind of see how we want to do that, but yes.
So I guess my question to the board is it the general consensus that we continue on, keeping in mind that we do want to try to get the right-of-way purchased?
Well, I got another question is, have we talked to our partners at all about delaying it for a year? I mean, when we first talked to them and they wanted to get this done in a year, we didn't know we had the issues with the power lines. We didn't know we had not getting the funds for the railroad crossing until another year. And is it prudent to instead of rush into it and get in there and build a road that won't, for planning purposes down the road may not be enough capacity, just so we can get it done in 1 year? Or is it better to take it a year, get the funds, get the power pole move, acquire it, and have a road that's has the ability to carry traffic through the future and not so short term? And so I don't know if that's a question to answer or not, if they'd be willing to do that. And I guess the question to them would be saying, hey, we can get you this built here, but this is as big as it's going to be. This is as wide as it's going to be. Or if we wait a year, this is the potential we can have with a more traffic, safer traffic, more turning lanes, and better for expansion in future. Would they say, that sounds like a better option to me? Or, no, let's get it done now. And so I don't know if that discussion needs to be had, or we're just assuming 1 year and they're done and they're walking.
Well, it was in their letter of intent that that was under the condition that it was done in 2014.
Commissioner Krogman, I listened carefully at your comments, and I totally agree that I think we need to take a step back and take a look at what the potential is here. I know, and our business partners in this thing, and I've worked with them before on projects, and I think that they would certainly listen to the comments that you just made and trying to come to some resolve. And if nothing else, experience tells me that if you don't have control of something, a lot of things can happen in the meantime before you eventually were to get control. And I think that's why it's important that we have that right-of-way identified and acquired, irregardless of whatever arrangements we may make for an extended period of time for those that are occupying that right-of-way at this time, and to make sure that suddenly a new upgrade in their business doesn't happen and it gets placed in what would have been our potential right-of-way, and so we have this same issue in the future. And so I strongly agree with the comment that Commissioner Krogman has, is that maybe we should ask some of those questions with our partners, and maybe we should pursue diligently acquiring the necessary right-of-way that we need, as we stated in the beginning, and then work with, I guess at the present time, it's the two utilities that occupy that space, and work out some kind of a working agreement with them so that we're protected. And then I too would like to see the project done as quick as we can, but I don't want to create a problem, you know, into the future. And I think what Mr. Krogman is referring to is, you know, the conversations we had at the Intergovernmental Affairs meeting yesterday. The growth and expansion is probably going to be happening to the east. And the traffic pressure that's going to be on this road in the future. And in light of that, I think we want to make sure that we have provided as close to our original intent as possible. And so, Ryan, I'm with you. I think we need to sit down and have that conversation with our private sector partners, and we need to pursue the work with acquiring the adequate right-of-way that we originally stated with. And we can sit down and create some kind of an agreement with those that are occupying the right-of-way now. But just if they make any upgrades or anything in the future, that it isn't going to be something that would interfere with a future road project for a subsequent commission to deal with. Also, knowing what the activity that we have in this community, and Mr. Yseth, when you were on the school board, and you talked about acquiring property because you're going to need it 10 years down the road, it turned out you needed it in 5. And I think with the roundtable discussion yesterday at Intergovernmental Affairs, I'm pretty confident that we're going to see major growth and expansion in that, for lack of a better term, in the Aurora area and in the town of Aurora, and it's going to be increased traffic. So I'm really concerned about the quality of road that we put in and the safety that we go along with it. And the other thing, Ryan, that you didn't mention, but we've talked about in the future, this community and its sustainability and its quality of life issues is walking in bike paths or trails. Do we have enough to facilitate any of that in the future or whatever it might be? And we know that that's been talked about if we were to eventually develop 20th Street over to Aurora. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about when we start narrowing down and limiting our potential with the right-of-way.
And I think one of the issues there we talked about with that intergovernmental is identifying pieces of property and their uses. And so then the planning process of that is getting utilities there, because that's one of the biggest things. It's say, okay, we identify a quarter of land where they want to make it residential or they want to make it industrial, but yet we haven't planned far enough along to get the utilities out there to make it a project where people want to go there. Now it's like, we can't do that. So even bringing the water up, question there, that there's potential for residential, and we turn around and pave over the top with it without water. Now where do we go again? And we're stuck and say, okay, sorry, you can't do this because we don't have water there and we didn't plan far enough out there. And so, you know, again, it's a bigger, longer question, but what is that area east? What can that entail? Mm-hmm. And we have a project that's potentially going over there, may or may not. But then that opens up questions too of the use of different land over there and the traffic that could go. And so, you know, don't get me wrong, I'd love to build this. I wish it would have gone smooth and we get the 100 and we can go right now. But I'm not sure making a thing being done in a year is the prudent thing to do to the future and the planning of Brookings County. Because.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, I think the industrial people have waited a long time for this road. And, you know, I don't have a problem going back and saying, here's what we can build now. I don't think we're building a substandard road. I think we're building a road that's going to meet our traffic needs. It's going to be the traffic that's coming into the industrial area mainly. I think if there's an issue with somebody feeling there could be development into the future, I mean, it's certainly not going to be in that first mile because it's all wetlands and maybe into that second mile if they talk about expansion, but you still have the interstate. I mean, that's what they talked about for development and residential. You got that interstate that kind of keeps things from, you got to jump that interstate and you got to have a way to get over there. If the utilities feel it's important to have water out in there because it's not our water, it's going to be city water, that the city should look at saying, hey, do we want to put a water line in when they're putting the road in? I don't think that's our obligation to to do that. I agree with Ryan that maybe we need to be thinking about that and ask the question to utilities, do you want to put a water line in now that we're putting this road in? But I think we need to go back to the partners and say, this is what we can build and this is what we're looking at, because we really haven't changed anything. I mean, we've talked about building this road. We'd like to have, more right-of-way, and I think we can work on that. But you know as well as I do, if Sioux Valley or the BMU moves those poles, who's going to pay for that? The consumers. I mean, we're all going to have to pay for that eventually. I mean, whether it be with Sioux Valley or whether it be with BMU. And I don't think we should stop the project moving forward as long as we communicate, this is what we're going to be able to do now. But this is our long-range plan of looking at doing, maybe doing something more, but at least we'll have the road in. So I would not want to delay this for this next year.
Nor do I.
I remember a meeting that Al Houghton was at, and he pulled out the floodplain map, and there's not going to be a ton of development near that road. Although I went to another meeting, there was going to be some residential development with the leftover next to the water and all that. But I lean definitely towards proceeding. But the question I would have, can't we just go after this right away and leave those poles there? We've got a problem with either one of them?
Well, the problem would be is BMU, of course, is okay with that because they don't move their poles.
Yeah.
But Sioux Valley, and like I said, this is discussions that we've had with them. Maybe there's some other people that need to talk to them, but their discussion with us was that if you purchase more right-of-way on the east side or the west side there, they're going to want to have those poles moved and have their own easement outside the right-of-way. So let's say we move that, we get 50-foot right-of-way in there, we purchase additional 17, they're going to want to move their poles 17 feet to the west and then have an easement there outside the right-of-way.
Within the right-of-way or outside?
Outside the right-of-way, yeah.
Okay.
What there'll be is you have your 50-foot right-of-way,
Yeah,
and then there'll be a 10, 15-foot utility easement outside the right-of-way, and that's what they have right now. But that's the discussion that we had with them, is that they would want to, they don't, unlike BMU, they don't want their poles in the right-of-way, they want to move out into an easement. But like I said, Tom, that's a discussion that we had with them. Maybe there's some other discussions that could be done with these guys, but that's where we're at right now.
But Brad, my point is, let's purchase the right-of-way. Let's proceed with the construction of the road, but we got to have adequate right-of-way to improve that road in the future if as need be. And we will need to improve and expand that road, and it's not going to be many years. But at the same time, we can work with the utility companies to allow them and permit them to have their poles within our right-of-way until such time that they upgrade and they choose to move them on their own at their expense, or as society needs to make that change in the future upgrade to the road, then they would be obviously requested to move. But they could be a friendly guest until that time.
But
Yeah, but the Sioux Valley actually has an easement right now. So,
right.
So I guess
So we'd be purchasing subject to the easement.
Yes, but they would
Yes.
want, but they don't want their power poles in a new right-of-way, because right now, they've already got an easement there, so they're gonna want another easement, and you can't establish an easement in a right-of-way, you'd have to be outside the right-of-way for that. So what they're saying is that, we're gonna require that you guys, since they have an easement, that the county moves the power lines outside that additional right-of-way that is purchased.
I guess.
Well, I think that can all be negotiated out.
It could be, maybe, yes.
I'm not in the utility easement business, but you can have an easement and not move your poles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what you're saying, Sioux Valley's saying, we don't want it in the right-of-way.
They don't want it in the right-of-way.
If you buy up additional right-of-way, then you're gonna pay to move our poles
In a new easement.
into a new easement off of the right-of-way. So it's gonna cost us.
It'll cost the county because they have an easement right now.
Right, but I think what I'm asking is, though, can we obtain an easement form that's not used and just say, hey, you're okay where you're at until the time comes you want to replace them, and this easement will be sitting here waiting for you. unless they're worried about liability being in the right of way.
And that could be maybe some further discussions that we'd have to have with them, yes.
But the point is, we need to move on with this.
And we can, like I said, well, if we get the direction just to continue down the section line the way it is right now, we can continue on with our design. So if anything, we can get this thing out to bid here in July,
Right.
you know. And if maybe there's some issues that maybe still right-of-way stuff, you know, but it still ain't gonna hamper what we're doing right now because it's not gonna change. The road's gonna be what it is, no matter what is talked about there.
Yeah.
So we could still go on with that, and maybe there'll be some further discussions with Sioux Valley and things like that to get right-of-way and things like that, but it shouldn't stop us for continuing on with our plans. You know, one thing that maybe is that sometimes, you know, if we're gonna do some land acquisitions, you know, that's gotta be taking place, someone's gonna start doing that, and I guess, I don't know what your direction is to who is gonna do that with the county, start doing land acquisition, because that's another thing too.
Well, you led to my next question was, yeah, I'm with proceeding, and then who's gonna go to work with negotiating with Sioux Valley? Us? I'm gonna ask him to do it, we're gonna ask Stephanie to do, who's gonna do this? I mean, I wanna keep this pushing down the road here. Yeah, who's gonna do this?
You know,
Land purchase.
and what we would do, we provide the H2, the plats, the additional right-of-way plats. And usually, and like I said, it's something that, I don't know if you guys got someone, if it's Stephanie or who has done that, but who, I guess with the county, who has done land acquisitions, I guess?
Had only one other time where we did highway right away, and it was Ted. And I don't know if Ted worked with Mark on it
Yeah,
previously, but I'd be open to whatever.
As I recall, that's how it was done,
I think,
through our highway department and the state's attorney's office. And we can work that out. In fact, we can have a commissioner or two work with them so that everybody's on the same page, works through it, and get all the legals taken care of.
What about the negotiation with Sioux Valley? In conversation or negotiation, maybe just initially a conversation, but what's your thoughts on
You know, my first blush thought would be, we got to communicate with them, and so they fully understand exactly what we're doing, and I can't believe that they would be difficult to deal with, albeit when I'm hearing from you that maybe they are.
well, and this is just some initial conversations, Don, that we've had, you know, so it,
But you're our representative.
yeah.
So I think we could have maybe a subcommittee of a couple commissioners and sit down and visit with Sioux Valley. And you know, I've worked a lot with our business partners that we've got on this thing. And they're visionaries themselves, and they understand what the future is going to be and what we're going to need at the end of the day. And I certainly don't want to slow down the project at all. I want to get it done as soon as we can, but I want it done correctly so that it serves that area in the future, and there will be growth in that area, Tom. I mean, that's guaranteed. It's already happening to the south and to the east. And so we're going to have substantial traffic and concerns that we need to address, and I just want to make sure that we provided in the future that when that day comes, that the right-of-way is there, everything's in place, we're not running into more water lines, buried electrical lines, or whatever it may be, that we can move forward in an orderly manner. And I just can't believe that our business partners don't understand those questions too. And I applaud Commissioner Krogman for bringing this up, because it is very valid things to talk about. So that would be the way I'd proceed. I think we can have, we've done it before, we've had subcommittees, a couple of commissioners can sit down get all the parties involved, our highway department, our engineers, and the affected utilities, and say, this is the long-term plan. And I'd even invite one of our business partners in the conversation.
Yeah, it just gets down, though, the road's gonna get built, whether we
Right.
do it this summer or we do it next summer with right-of-ways. We're not using the right-of-ways next year, so the road's gonna get built one way or the other.
Right.
And I'm with you on this, getting prepared for the future and getting to work with Sioux Valley and everything, but the road's gonna get built one way or the other. And whether the partners are willing to wait next year, fine, but what's the difference? We're gonna have the same dang road out there. It's the right-of-way that's the part that's different. So I lean towards proceeding with the road, but not dropping the ball on the right-of-way, and that we can work with Sioux Valley and we get to work in obtaining the right-of-way. That's where I'm at.
Yes,
And
Commissioner
I
Falken.
think if between Banner and Dick, I mean, we may be talking an issue here where people aren't willing to sell for the right, I mean, we gotta find that out first. I mean, we can't get into a situation and say, well, we're gonna do this and do that with utilities until we can talk and have conversations about the land and whether or not it can even be purchased or whether it's available, and I would hopefully think it would be, but I think that's another part of this process, and I think we need to look, I don't think we need to, you know, and if, to me, my thought, if it's development all of a sudden starts out there, you know, the city is probably gonna annex that anyway. I mean, into their long-range plan. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it's that much of a development area, it may end up being that way, so.
I was just thinking about Sioux Valley, if the annex, I don't know how the laws are on that, but it seems like that's been a rub before.
So anyway, I just think we need to explore all these options, and if we get down to it, I mean, I don't think we need to move the poles until we need to move them. Don't make a big issue of that right now, but if we get the right of way and everybody knows, utility company knows what we're looking at possibly into the future, and they need to be planning into the future for their capital improvement or any of their, extended plans in their future too.
So it's the general consensus that we continue on and still try to obtain the easement, the right-of-way.
Really? Really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, is it? I thought you said it was.
It is. 3 of us are for continuing.
I didn't say I was opposed to continuing. I'm just concerned about the process that we're taking, and I don't want to lose our bargaining leverage, and I'm afraid we're probably going down that path. So, Ryan, I appreciate your comments.
I'm not sure we lose it whether, because if they know we're after this road one way or the other for safety concerns there, so this doesn't get back to that. But back to safety in this railroad crossing. When did you say that when would this road be done?
The road would be done, the road would be done this year, but.
What's this year? December, October?
October, November.
Okay, so you got people driving down it, and now we don't have any railroad, what are we doing here?
Yeah. That funding's not gonna be available till 2015.
Well, that's another issue, but.
Staff question?
Does the railroad funding require that the work be completed after the award is made, or can it be a reimbursement for the expenditure already made?
Steph, so you're asking, was that
If the county were to pay for the improvements, knowing that the funds might not come till 2015, is that acceptable through whatever the grant program is that you applied for? Or is it something that you have to wait until the grant award before the construction can?
Stephanie, Scott Moore from our office has been in contact with Stacy there and DOT, and honestly, I can't answer that for you right now here, but I know he's been in contact with them about the funding, so I can visit with him on that.
And then you said that, so you've got your answers that you needed for going to bid on the project this year yet? Is that what I'm hearing everybody say? Because it's kind of went back and forth a little bit, so. Yeah. If you proceed, when would the reason why I'm asking is we're going to need to know the bid opening timeline, so we'll have a budget established, because you won't have that until you get closer in, unless you already have a constructions estimate, because we have to do our supplemental budget hearing to get the funding ready too.
So are you asking maybe like a bid opening date then,
Yeah,
Stephanie?
or when you'll have we'd probably want to wait till the bid opening date to know what the actual costs are before you transfer money.
What we can do, I don't know how close, what we're doing is we're looking at, if we get the direction to go ahead, we can get some updated preliminary costs, at end of April, first part of May. And then what we'll do is, we'll have probably a meeting with Dick and all that to go over some plans, with the idea the final plans ready for bidding would be done at the end of May. So then we're looking at a bid opening date, probably mid-June sometime. We'll give them 2 weeks, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
I got a little concerned about that being out there with no railroad crossing, I mean, some kind of safety feature. And can we maybe get some of these loose ends tied up a little bit before we? What's your drop dead date that you need to get this ball rolling when you walk out this door?
We need to know soon.
What is soon?
Let's say 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because if we want to get this to meet that bid opening date of June, middle of June here, we need to have, a good 4 weeks to get plans wrapped up for that. So, there's stuff we can do now, Tom, but, if you're looking for a drop dead date, I'd say 2 weeks.
I guess I would like a couple of these questions answered before we get forward on this, because I don't like the idea of the railroad. I don't mind paying. That's a great idea. We'll pay for it if we're going to get reimbursed, but we need to know some of these costs up ahead a little firmer.
Can I make a suggestion with your 2-week timeframe that you're working with? The board will be here next Tuesday for equalization board hearings anyways. If we could have some information to report back to the board next Tuesday, then you're still within your 2-week timeframe too. And then if I needed to schedule any kind of action on something, we can do that at that time as well.
Could you have your
for next Tuesday, Stephanie?
Yeah. Railroad.
Yeah, we'll have some more conversations with DOT and kind of see when that funding is, but yeah, we could do that. Let's do next week. Should we find out?
And I know that maybe the concern will be there for the railroad even if the upgrades aren't done until the following year after the road is done. But I mean, you look at that, the road is being traveled now the way the railroad is set up, and it will continue to be that way. And it's different if it's in a community or there's there's a lot of sight distance problems, but out there it's pretty wide open. And most, isn't it, from going south?
Mm-hmm. There's one thing you probably, in 2016 is when they're going to do the road over here in the city, where there's a lot of, that 6th Street there, overpassing that. At that time, you're going to have a lot of traffic probably going down there. Next year, will you have any more traffic than you have it right now? Probably not. If it's paved, you might have more people going down there, but I think your key date is probably 2016. You're going to have a lot of traffic. And if there's funding for 2015, that crossing, and that'll be in for that 2016 detour, as people will be using it as. But there's, of course, some safety concerns.
Yeah, I just, if it's hard surface, I think we're going to have more traffic out there. I think we're also going to have it at a higher speed, and Marty can put up all the signs he wants, he and Dick, and I'm sorry. And I think if you're going north, you're obstructed to the east.
Definitely. I travel a lot. It's Freiberg's land there, and there's a lot of trees, and basically, if you don't come to a complete stop, you're not seeing the train come. Okay. I mean, in a close distance. You have to get right up to the tracks to be able to see down that track. And so, and I've witnessed it before, right through it, and stuff. And that's what does concern me. And then you also have the intersection right close next to it too, where the city land meets there, that intersection. And
I would think that intersection, knowing what's going to happen out in that area, is going to require the arms or the, what do you call them, the gates?
Yeah, and that's in our budget.
With school, it's going to be heavily used. Let's be honest. It's going to be a lot of traffic out there.
Do you remember the railroad costs, roughly?
The cost for it's $250,000 for the crossing and the gates, approximately.
Well, I guess I concur. I mean, we need to check into if it's a possibility of us paying it and then paying us back, or if we just.
So getting it done this year where you guys will pay and getting reimbursed next year, is that kind of what we're looking at possibly doing?
But if we're not getting reimbursed, now we've just given up $250 to save $100 to do it in a year, so that doesn't make sense, with our partnership. If our partnership says we're going to have it done in a year, and then we're going to turn around and they don't allow us to foot the bill and reimburse us for the railroad crossing, we've just paid $250,000 more to try to finish in a year to get $100,000.
Well, we can deal with that when we find out.
Yeah, we have to do that. Okay.
In the meantime, I guess I'd be willing with you, Donnie. I'm a Sioux Valley customer. You're a Sioux Valley customer, visiting with them. I worked on the REA every year during college, so I've always had a fondness for co-ops. Maybe we can visit with them together. Is that okay with the other commissioners to get?
So within a week, you're gonna have to do it, you know?
Yeah, we could do that if
Yeah.
that's consensus of the board. We can visit with them, bring them up to date, what we're really trying to accomplish, and,
Just see if we got some real serious roadblocks there.
yeah, okay.
And I would volunteer to have a visit with our partners and see where they stand exactly.
Well, yeah, would you please? And I think, you know, we're not trying to be obstructive. We want to get this done as fast as we can, and I think, Stephanie, I'd be surprised if you don't find out that your partners fully understand the reason we're asking the questions we are and
We'll see.
wanting to move forward with it. Okay? Further discussion, comments, directives? I think you got a little something to work on in the next few days,
Thank
and
you,
we'll see you
Brad.
next Tuesday.
All right, thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Thanks, Brad. Deputy State's Attorney, do you have anything for the good of the order today?
Just a couple brief comments. Just wanted to give everybody an update, that new lead Zucker technology that the PD and the Sheriff's Office is implementing. That's also going to be implemented in our office, and they're going live April 22nd. So we're kind of in the midst of all of that right now. And we did budget for that for this year, so that should be all accounted for. And I think efficiency-wise, it will be wonderful. I think it will create a significant amount of more work for my staff and funds budget-wise, because all the reports used to be printed and hand-delivered over to my office, and now they will be, my staff will have to be keeping track of them on this new software, printing off hard copies, because we still maintain hard copies, burning discs, burning CDs for the audiovisual. So our office may see some additional supply costs in the coming years, but overall it's great. We're fully on board, and we're just working with the other departments to get all the kinks worked out. The other thing I wanted to let you guys know about was a couple months ago, probably January, I updated the board on a hospital welfare appeal that was going to the circuit courts on a issue asking the judge to interpret the statute in a way that would be negative for the county. It would incur more liability for us in these cases. And I just want to report back that the county had a favorable decision from the judge. We prevailed, so we do not have to risk paying on some of these claims that under the statute I don't think we're obligated to pay. So that was good news. I kind of wanted to reiterate what Joyce said this morning. I spoke to the Criminal Justice Club on campus a couple weeks ago, and I was happy to report no one fell asleep during the class. But again, it seemed like a really outstanding response. I had a number of students come up to me afterwards and ask if they could come sit in on magistrate court Monday morning, which it's public, they're more than welcome to do, but just expressing that interest in what our office does and the role that we play for the county in general. So wonderful to see that response. And Clyde and I will be going to our annual conference in Deadwood, April 22nd through the 25th. So I will be here for that commission meeting, and then we will be leaving after that and heading out to Deadwood for a few days. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Commission Assistant.
I have some items to go over with you beyond what was just listed on the rest of my report was my schedule, but I visited with Cheeseman Center for Democracy on Friday and again on yesterday on the internal survey that they will be sending, or that we're going to send out to all candidates or all the people that the board designates. I did give them the summary sheet that I provided to each of you, kind of saying what the board's thoughts and goals were with the main points at the bottom. I think they did a pretty good job of incorporating that stuff, and they're really just getting at, I looked at the survey yesterday, the core functions like county government, public perception, future needs, changes, maybe barriers to change, that kind of thing. That will go out to all department heads ahead of time. They are going to have a response date of April 15th, and then that way they can compile that data so that we can give it to the board in advance of the strategic planning session, which the date has just left my mind. May 6th. Thank you, May 6th. A couple things that I need to know on that. First of all, their suggestion is because they're going to be meeting with department heads ahead of time, first through the survey and then through follow-up conversations with department heads prior to the strategic planning, they would like to reserve that date to meet with, specifically with the board, so that they can go over the results of what they heard from the different departments and lead you through the process, because you should have all that other information from your department heads prior to that date. As long as everybody is okay with that format. Excuse me? May 6th. I mean, that's the date you guys had picked for me, but, right, but my point is I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that the actual day of the in-person planning day is going to be with the board and the Cheeseman Center, because they're going to do their work with departments gathering information and fact-finding prior to that date, because otherwise you are going to be cut short and not have enough time probably to get through everything the board needs to get through.
A question for you then. So then we, as a board, would not personally meet with any of our department
No,
heads?
not Zucker. That's your software, sorry. The Cheeseman Center is going to be doing that prior to the meeting, getting all that information that you guys directed on the board prior to the session.
Yeah, see, I guess my thought in talking about this we would have those meetings with us and each individual department head. They would fill out their thing, and then we would ask them questions. Where do you see this going? What do you look at? And we would ask
those questions are in the survey.
I know, but I want to go above and beyond the survey after I get their answers. I want to be able to answer different questions.
Okay, then we
that
need
may
to
come
schedule
up.
more than one day, which is okay. If you guys want to do that, if you want to have an in-person session with department heads prior to your strategic planning day. But the process that they're going to walk you through in taking all this information that you're going to be gathering from your other departments, you're not going to have the time to sit down and really go through and prioritize and make board goals and sit down and visit with each department individually. And originally, the direction I got from the board is you want this to be a one-day event. So if we want to schedule other, maybe what we could do is schedule a time between when the survey is due April 15th and May 8th, so you can look at the individual responses that everyone's going to submit and ask any follow-up questions that you may have. Or May 6th, sorry. I don't have my calendar right in front of me.
That's what I would like to do, and I would like to also have all of the, the city's strategic plan, the transportation study, all available to us in that time. So then that's where we can do the research of all those different types of plans and stuff. That because we sat down at our intergovernmental thing yesterday. And there's about 4 people that are doing strategic plan. The school's doing strategic planning, and I think that'd be interesting to see where they're thinking of buying their next land, because that can definitely affect us, especially if they're looking at buying something out of the city limits. And that would be a longer-term plan for us of how do we plan for that potential. And so I would like to be able to get all of those strategic
Will they
plans.
have their planning documents done by May 8th?
I don't know. I'm not sure yet where they're at on it.
No, because they were asking the city what their plan was, so that they would know where they were supposed to go with buying land. So
Would you maybe, because the board was the one pushing for the May 6th date. You guys were wanting to get on this and move fast. So if you're more comfortable with this, what we could do is go through this initial survey process and set aside May 6th for you guys to meet with department heads that are available. Some are gone that day, 2 are gone that day, Bev and Joyce, or Bev and Vicky, thank you, it's the elected officials workshop, and get any questions that you have answered. We had already anticipated giving you the copies of the transportation plan, obviously the 4-H summit review, the overall review from everybody completing these surveys.
You said the surveys will be done by the 15th.
Yeah, they want them turned in by April 15th, so they have time to put it into a comprehensive document for the board's review prior to May 8th.
And then,
Or May 6th, geez, sorry.
so
I'm stuck on the 8th.
If we, maybe, we don't have, I was going to say the next commission meeting is the 22nd, that wouldn't have enough time for them. If we put, I guess what I was thinking was spending 15, 20 minutes, half hour at the most with each department head and have them explain some of their, what they're putting on and how they're answering questions. For example, Mr. Birk will be going to a national meeting here in the next,
When do you go, Dick?
Next, at
and I want him to be able to bring back stuff for us that we can use in our planning for roads down the road. And I want to have that conversation, and I'm not sure I'm going to get the answers off of a survey from them of what he has come up with. And that's where I'd like to sit down and say, hey, where do you see us? This is what you answered. Do you think this is something we need to really plan for, or do you see it as an issue in our county? And that would be the discussion we can have on that and prioritize some of those issues.
I can tell you I did the survey and it does ask those questions. I stepped through it yesterday. So it does require you, the problem that you're going to come across is that we've asked these questions of departments every year during budget, and maybe the responses haven't been as, I guess, thorough as what the board was looking for planning purposes in previous years. This survey, when I went through it, kind of forces you to get more in-depth into how you're answering.
Longer term? Because
Yeah.
that's what it's strategic planning.
It's
I'm
gonna
looking
take
for
them
10,
at least-
15, 20 years strategic
Right,
planning, not 2 years, 1
Right.
year, that's something.
Well, we do ask every year for them to give us a 5 and 10 year outlook. We don't get that information provided, though.
Okay.
My question is, for what Ryan is talking about, do we need Cheeseman in the middle to do that? I mean, I think for our own strategic plan, that probably is good, but if we want to talk to the department heads, why can't we just have a meeting with the department heads?
Here's one thing I'll point out. First of all, in the document that or the agreement that we have with them, they are to do this preliminary work for you. We ask them to do that. I think you need to do this part that they're asking for, because it forces me as a department head and everybody else as a department head to look at these questions, give you some insight and feedback, which you're not going to take 45 minutes to analyze when I'm having a one-on-one conversation with the board. It not only will provide you guys with the results of what I'm saying, but it also forces me to sit down and put some more analysis into the operations of your department and get your thoughts. It gets everybody kind of going down the same direction, and then you can come in and have that in-person conversation to follow up on that if you want. But I think you'd be missing a great deal of information if you only just did in-person things.
I was wondering, we keep with the process, but on the 29th, maybe it's a Tuesday, maybe come in that morning and have the department heads, and if we had the information from the survey ahead of time, we could kind of read it over, and it's just nice. It's one thing to read things, but person-to-person conversation eliminates all doubt, and there'd be a chance, maybe it'd be a short meeting. We read your report, we have no questions, and some we would say, what do you mean by this? That kind of thing. And then we could do that on our own. And we'd accept the process, meet with the 29th with the department heads, and then when we have ours, then we'd have all that behind us and a chance to think about it a little bit. Just
good to
throwing
me.
that out.
Does the 29th work for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that sounds great, because you'll get additional information on.
Would we call it a work session?
Yeah.
Strategic work session, strategic plan work session.
Okay.
I don't know if your idea is to meet individually with department heads. To me, my idea is to have all of them here, because one needs to hear what the other one is, that we spend. I mean, I don't know what the thought is. To me, it'd be better to have them all there at the same time to discuss, but maybe, because maybe Marty needs to know, but maybe we can have that general talk to start with and then meet with them individually. I don't know what your thoughts are. You don't think that's...
I just don't know how many people have the ability that day to dedicate a large amount of time to go through everybody's.
I think it should take a large amount.
You don't think so? Okay.
I just don't, I'm just wondering what you guys are thinking. I don't care.
I like individual myself. I want them to be able to be free to talk about and there's 15 minutes, we have questions for them. They can feel free to answer for their individual department and not worry about if they're going to say something that would offend another department or something. I don't know.
I lean with Ryan, and I think if we find some interconnectivity, synergy problems, or whatever you want to call it, we can handle that at another time.
So 9 o'clock on the 29th?
9 a.m. the 29th?
Oh, I should probably make sure I don't already have something scheduled. Well, I guess you don't need me here. I don't. I think that's a good idea.
Wasn't your other question?
Yeah, now I got a couple more. I just want to make sure that the
Okay.
formatting is still kind of what everybody is expecting. I think that you're going to find that you're going to be happy that you have that full day on the 8th just for board discussion. And I like that you're going to have the information department heads are providing ahead of time, so then you can ask further follow-up questions. I think that's great.
We don't have a county commission meeting on that May 6th?
Yeah, we do. It's after the meeting, in the afternoon. What you guys told me to schedule was starting in the afternoon at 1 o'clock and into the evening till we're done.
Okay. And I just, when you said that full day, I was thinking, okay, we're meeting at 9. I was
No,
thinking,
sorry.
Gotcha. No, it's okay.
Okay, so now the next question, following up with that, is, like I said, I will email that survey out today. It's an online survey that people will go through, and it's gonna take, they'll have to set aside at least a half hour, to go through it and get questions answered. Who specifically does the board want to receive it? I'm assuming, obviously, the board is going to receive it as well as the department heads. Where do you want to go past that? There's been discussions about 4-H being involved. Do you want it to be sent to Sonia? Do you want it to go to the extension board chair? Who's going to represent that? Do you want me to send it to community health, since they're another quasi kind of government? We have 2 county employees out there, although it's not a county department, just kind of like 4-H. I want direction from the board as to who specifically you want to receive the survey.
I would like to be 4-H involved, just my thought, just for the potential for capital improvement down the road and planning for them. I think they should have some, because they are our #1 non-mandated expense, and I think that's something that we need to have their discussion with.
Who would be the person representing 4-H, or what people representing 4-H should receive the survey? It's pretty technical: budget, goals, strategic planning, capital improvements.
Is it something that their whole board, their extension board, could get together and fill out as a board? They could discuss it, and then they could turn it in, and then if we have a discussion, it'd be with the board president, that if we had a discussion saying, where was the board at? And he could speak on behalf of the extension board. I guess I want the input of what their plans are and what they're looking at as a board down the future. And so could they call a meeting where this is the thing, they gotta fill it out, and it's gonna be 45 minutes, and they work through it together, how they wanna fill that out? They fill it out as a board.
Ryan, my first blush would be their board chair would be the point guard, and that's who you would send the questionnaire to with, suggestion that they get together and fill it out, like you just mentioned.
Remember those job descriptions, the expansion promotion board's the one supposed to be looking down the road.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but if you're talking,
he's also on that board.
Well, either way, if they all wanna get together, both boards wanna get together and have some input on how they fill that out, that would be great.
Who chairs the expansion promotion? Andy?
He chairs both?
He chairs both.
He chairs both.
Well, so we got it covered.
You contact him, and I think they should have, both boards should meet and fill the questionnaire out, and somebody is there to represent each one of those boards. And if Andy wants to represent them both, fine, or if somebody wants to appoint somebody else, or just somebody from each board.
It's up to them.
So what direction is the board giving me?
I'm giving I think we're giving you the direction that you would, in regard to the 4-H program, you'd make contact with Andy, their chair.
And
Andy
tell
Dupre's.
him.
Ask for him and the board to fill this questionnaire out.
Okay.
Both
boards.
yeah.
He's chair of both boards, so.
Extension board doing business as.
Okay, we got it covered?
I got it.
You
And I
asked
would
about
think
about the community
Department of Health or.
Yeah, what about community health?
And I don't know.
I don't know if it's real advantageous for the community health folks. That's kind of an ongoing annual thing.
I just wanted to make sure, because they do have a county budget and they have 2 employees out there as well.
Yeah, I don't think we're slighting them, and I don't think it would.
I'm just asking the question.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious that almost impossible for those employees to be predicting their future. They're a part of a much bigger pie.
Right. It's just those 2 departmental budgets are the only departmental budgets that we have that aren't, they're like the quasi kind of confusion area, I guess.
I guess out of courtesy, we could mention to them what we're doing.
Well,
And
here
if they
would be an
like,
example. I mean, you guys have paid for their remodeling in their office. You have bought office furniture. If they see long-term that we pay rent for their space, our agreement says that we provide space for that organization. So what if they're saying 5 to 10 years from now, they think they're going to have to expand and have 2 more nurses and the space that they're currently renting isn't going to accommodate it?
well.
Then it would be, is it a county?
Okay, time out. Allow me to finish my original comment. What I was going to say is we would be courteous and notify them of what we're doing and let them decide, or maybe talk to their superiors at the state level, and if there are some anticipated changes, that they could bring them forward to us so we could plan for it. But I just don't want them to feel that they need to come and spend the whole entire session with us, you know.
But I do, you know, again, we're talking long-term again, and if there's some vision there of expanded services that we will have to be a part of, whether it's
I agree.
furniture or whether it's a new building. You know, I'm not saying that's what I want to do, but if we're going to see something like that, then we need to have that in our plan down there. So I don't think an invitation, even filling it out, wouldn't hurt us. More information, the better.
Stephanie?
Well, Don, you were the only one that said yes as a courtesy. Everybody else previously had said no. So what direction should I take from the board?
Well, I switched. You talked me into it, and I'm not worried about them wasting all day, because we're just going to do them one at a time, and it may be 2 seconds with them, you know, and if there's some questions after, you know, they fill out the survey and we see it, we got a chance to ask the questions. If there isn't any, we just, huh?
Who fills the survey out there?
Melissa.
Cool, yeah, Melissa.
Steph, did you have a question?
Melissa is typically the office contact person for that. The reason why I brought that one up, I understand, Stephanie, that it is different than 4-H, but I also pay those bills every month, seeing what we're paying on rent, utilities, janitorial, you know, that when we've done remodeling, when we've purchased office furniture, you know, and that's also in that state agreement. So, I mean, if they see something coming 5 to 10 years, I wouldn't know because I'm not in that program directly.
Sure.
I honestly think we should have them all fill it out and then schedule a time with everybody. It may be, hey, we don't see anything, we looked at your information and, you know, have you thought of anything since you filled this out? It's a 5-minute deal, it's a 5-minute deal, but that way everybody gets a chance to come in and go over how they responded to the survey, and if there's nothing, I don't want to start piecing them out and say, well, we don't need to talk to this one, we don't need to talk to this one, because I think you give everybody the chance and just set it up that way. And I think in the 4-H and the extension part of it, you know, I think Sonia's going to have input. I don't think we need to have she's going to have input through both boards, so it's not going to be like she shouldn't fill the surveyor out. We're slighting her, because she's going to have input.
So just to clarify, that was one of my questions. As far as 4-H, I'm sending it to Andy, asking him to get together with both boards, and I'm assuming with Sonia to complete the survey as one response. Sonia is not getting a separate invite, correct?
No.
It's the same information, so she, okay. And then also I will be sending it to Melissa with Community Health.
And
Okay.
we'd want Sonia to be with Andy.
Oh, that's what I said, as part of the group response.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing is we had a meeting of the Brookings County Regional Railroad Authority in regards to a letter that we received from Novita where they're turning down the rail authority loan. One of the things that came up in reviewing, I think Abby found it in our governing document that sets up that board. It says that the board will adopt bylaws, which the county, we could not find any record of that group ever adopting bylaws. So I have sent out a request for information to the other regional railroad authorities and counties that I work quite a bit with. And apparently we all used a standard form document in creating that railroad authority because everybody has the same thing and nobody has bylaws except for one. So we are getting a copy from another county so we can look at that. We did lose one of our members on the railroad authority, so the railroad authority has asked me to do a citizen interest application so they can appoint a new member. On your desk this morning, I was asked by the board, I think at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, about employee exit surveys of employees leaving. I did do some background on that. That's not one of the things that I worked directly with previous to Katie leaving. What we were doing before is they had a survey, just a paper copy of a survey that was given to all employees in their manual. Because we haven't had any response on that for the last over a year, I started a new format where we're going to be doing online surveys of employees that leave. It's nice because I can email that out to them even if they are no longer with the county. So the responses that you're seeing there is from the former deputy director in my department, as well as the IT support specialist. And I believe it's a correctional officer that took the job as a deputy sheriff, or was he a deputy? He was a correctional officer, right? That went to Hamlin County? Yeah, so, yeah, you don't have to say his name because it's confidential. Nope, you're not supposed to say names. And I think it was a correctional officer that took a promotion as a deputy sheriff in Hamlin County. So those are the 3 responses that you've gotten. I've sent it out to 3 other ones. I have not received responses yet. This tool is really nice. You would have seen a claim in either this packet or the previous one for SurveyMonkey subscription. It allows us to do more comprehensive surveys online. So I use that tool in sending out the survey, and now it's saved in there, and it's nice because it lets me categorize the responses by times, by departments, things like that, so it gives me more opportunities for analysis. I also created a new hire survey for 6 months and 1 month after all new hires, so that'll be going out from here on out too for new hires to see how they're adjusting on the job. When you are done with that information, or if you want to keep it, you can, but it is confidential information, so it should not be shared, and if you're going to discard it, I'll take it and shred it. I appreciate the opportunity to attend the spring workshop last week. I did meet with the other administrators from the other counties. We have decided we are going to start meeting quarterly. We had, an hour during one of the sessions and an hour over lunch, and we didn't get through half the things we had set to talk about. So we will be going to Aberdeen here, I believe, in June to follow up on some of the other items that we had open. A follow-up question when I was visiting with Cheeseman Center for Democracy. Just a reminder that both during email correspondence and at their presentation that they gave to the board following the 4-H summit, that they offered to do a follow-up session at no charge to the county. If you wanted to bring in the key stakeholders, more of just the extension board and 4-H Promotion and Expansion Committee and the board and SCSU Extension, and not have a public forum type setting, but have more of a get to the key issues. Just want to remind everyone that that's still on the table, that they will come back and do another one at no charge for you if you would rather do a session with just those key stakeholders and or an invitation only kind of thing with just identified issues. So just reminding everybody it's out there still. Along with that, the suggestion that they had about creating a one-page talking sheet of the current issues and what's being done or what has been done. I don't know if I have that kind of on my open items list, and I don't know if that's something that we want to continue to proceed, or is that something the board decided that didn't sound like a good option? It was in their suggestions of things that we could do to improve the communication, to even come up with just a list of the things that were kind of concerns or misinformation, so that it can be clarified for everybody and have input from both the 4-H board, extension board, and the county commission in presenting the document. If it's something that you guys are interested in doing, I can send out some feeler surveys to see what kind of information we think needs to be included on it. I just haven't heard anybody discuss it.
On the first offer, how long is that good for?
He just said they'd be open to doing it when you're ready. I don't think there's really an expiration date. If you want to wait through strategic planning and kind of see what the responses are from that and coordinate something after that, I think it'd be totally fine. But they kind of feel like they're kind of vested into this thing now, so they want to make sure that I reminded you that that offer is still open.
Second part, I guess I'm lukewarm.
Okay. Maybe that'll come after the strategic planning. I don't know.
Can't even get excited.
You're lukewarm. My water's cool.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put it way back down on the ticker then for me. So
I think it's right after the strategic.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have a better idea.
I don't see much steam coming out of the coffee cup. So
I'll leave it open, but I won't continue to wonder about it on a daily basis. How's that? We did make an offer for our IT support specialist position, and he has tentatively accepted to start April 28th. However, that is also contingent upon our criminal and, background checks and drug screening. So I should be able to report to you next week how that's going. So I'm really excited to get them started. What else do I have here? Okay. We did have a couple weird glitches on our website. We've been using our website to upload our agendas and packets, and we had the website go down last Thursday, which created some problems with some of the automated email notifications that go out when the agendas are posted, because I was working on the agenda when it happened. We also found out that we have these items that we store in the system and kind of just change the dates on every time we go to do a new packet. We found out that when we go back and add items to a packet after it's been published, like additional handouts that came today, I'll go and add them to the online packet so the public can go look at them. It was changing the dates of the agenda after the fact because it was taking a new template date. So we've discovered that yesterday. Michelle went through and looked at any of them that had errors and corrected them, and we'll change the way we are posting them from now on. We may need to still look at going to a board documents or Granicus system like we originally discussed probably 2 years ago. I guess the added benefit would be of going to a system like that would be that we can also tag our videos that we're uploading so that if someone just wants to see the discussion on 34th Avenue, they can click on that agenda item and it brings them right to that point in the meeting video, which is nice. If you haven't been on the city system to look at what theirs looks like, I would encourage you to go there. The other one that allows us to do that feature that is less expensive, it doesn't have as many built-in features that we looked at, was Board Docs, and that's what Meade County is using. So I would encourage you to go to Meade County's website, and then if you click on the commission department, you'll see the live meetings, and you can go through and look at some of their previous agendas. Both of those products would allow you as board members, you would have your own section in the cloud for your personalized packet. And so as a packet's uploaded, if you're wanting to make notes on specific agenda items and you make notes on your individual packet, it won't be shown to everybody else. So it's kind of nice. Instead of having to make your paper notes that you're bringing in, you could do it right on your iPad and bring it with you that way. So I would just want you guys I want to encourage you guys to go look at that so that you can kind of get an idea of which one you like the feel of. And then the other thing that I was hoping to just take a second today to show everyone, one of the things that came up during the departmental reviews or annual performance reviews is the board made the suggestion about there was some road updates and stuff being updated to personal Facebook and social media sites, and the board encouraged the highway department to put those so that it goes on the county's sites as well, on the county website, so the general public can get it. I wanted to let you know that that's been done, as well as Marty now adds his, I don't know what you call your alerts, Marty, but your press release or public notices on the different arrests that they make and stuff like that. And so people who are interested in subscribing to any of those things can go into this Notify Me button. And when they go in here, they can subscribe to certain portions of the website. They can be notified about hazardous weather alerts, whether there's road closures, bid postings, jobs, news flash items, calendars, and the agenda center. And they can subscribe to specific areas, or they can subscribe to them all if they want. They can get email notifications or text notifications. So if you ever have someone who's saying that they want to get some kind of notification on either weather conditions or sheriff alerts or something, tell them to go to this Notify Me button on the website, and then they can subscribe and they can decide what they get and how they get it, whether they get an email or text. So I would just encourage you to, if you're hearing people, to use that as well. That's all I have. I think I can stop now.
Okay, thank you. Dennis, I'm going to let you go first this week.
Okay. The only thing I had is I traveled up here on last Wednesday evening and spent 2 days reviewing RFPs for our GIS project we have going with the state, and it's quite intense to get that finished up, and we're trying to get through them and have to go back out to Pier at least twice more to finish those up, and we should be moving forward with the state GIS system. And
Okay,
the
good.
next part is the next generation, which it's all the mapping data for the entire state is going to be housed and put into one location so that it allows calls to be sent somewhere else and that data to go with them. So it's really a kind of redundant system, and it's going to really be it's going to be expensive, but it's going to be a great system when we get it done. But it's technology. I mean, I understand GIS to a point, but I'm about here and they're about up here, and so we have consultants that are walking us through the process, but we have to make the decision. So it's involved in that. And then yesterday I did attend the legislative luncheon. Again, I think all the commissioners were there, and I think it's always good to kind of go over what's happened at the legislature, and also to have our kind of talk with other local entities of what they're actually doing, and you learn a little bit every time you go there. So, and then last night I did get an invitation. I think we put it on our calendar. They called it the pork crawl, and we went to 3 different establishments and got the chance to visit with some of the pork producers and some of the people up at the college, and you learn a little bit about that whole operation and what's in your areas. And you know, it certainly is important when it comes time where people are looking at putting feeding operations in and so on and so forth. So very interesting. And did that last night.
Okay, thanks. Steph?
On March 25th, I talked to Brad Wormers at Banner and told him I thought it would be a good idea if he came in front of the commission this week for direction. On the 26th, Andy Dupre and I were invited to the Outdoor Adventure Center to discuss payment for shooting sports because we have had varying and disagreeing reports on how much we were going to have to pay outdoor adventure centers for the shooting sports. The program itself will pay, for lack of a better word, dues from each of the 4-H'ers. That'll be $742 a month times the 4 months, which is $2,968. And then the extension board will pick up the remainder of the tab, which amounts to $5,992, and that's a total of $8,970. Plus, there will be storage added, and they've not come up with that. They showed us where they want to store things, and they want to possibly build a fence around the 4-H stuff so that no one else can get at it, and put up shelves so that they can go up with it so it won't take up so much room. And that amount will be in the neighborhood between $1,000 and $2,000. So that's a little better than $23,000.
Who's paying the dues?
The kids pay.
The stuff
And dues
that,
isn't really a right word. I don't know what they call it, but a fee, yeah.
the stuff they're storing, is that the stuff we saw at the Swiftel Center inside
Yeah,
those? Okay.
it's the backdrop deals for the archery, and there are gun safes there, and so it includes all of that.
So are pretty much all the shooting activities taking place out there, or?
No, 3 of the disciplines do not shoot.
Where do they go?
They're at the ROTC Center on
Okay.
campus. And for now, are planning to stay there. On March 27th, I had domestic abuse. We're still revisiting job descriptions, basically. I also had the extension board meeting on the 27th where this information was presented. And it was, we discussed the Brookings 4-H forward plan a little more. And one thing that was brought up was that the dog show, for a 2nd year in a row, which was scheduled in November, they've been asked to move it again. And it's a little frustrating when 4-H is supposed to have first dibs and we do what we're supposed to do, and then they want it moved. Anyway, I don't know how they're going to handle that, but they're going to try to move it. April 1st, there was a promotion and expansion meeting, but I was on my way to Pierce, so I did not get to go to that, but I'll get minutes so I can report on that. On April 2nd, I was at the South Dakota County Commissioners Association one-day meeting in Pierre, And as usual, it was very informative. I found the county road systems meeting the economic challenge especially interesting this year. They had some real good information, and I took some good notes if anybody's interested, and I think probably we can get a copy of that if anybody wants to.
I think I'll add it to the packet next time, because there was a lot of really good charts and graphs in there
really good
too.
information. And you know, it was kind of a whirlwind because it was all done in one day, but I learned more in that day than I have in the last 3 years. So it was a good conference, I thought. April 7th, I too attended the legislative luncheon with David Owen. Is always kind of entertaining, and the intergovernmental conference was good. It's nice to hear what the other governmental agencies are doing. And then last evening, I too attended the port crawl. I thought it was outstanding. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to the producers. They had a producer at every table, and some of them had farrowing operations, some of them had feeding operations, some of them had both, and I found it fascinating, and the food was very good too.
Okay, Ryan?
All right, great life for me. On the 27th, we had a hospital board meeting, but I was out of town. Tom covered with me on that, so I'm glad there's any questions on that. And then just, yesterday going to the legislative luncheon and intergovernmental conference, I took home some, some responses. It is good, and that's one thing about it we've done very well, I think, is collaborate. And, we had SDSU there, and just discussing things like that, and city there, and everybody taking notes of ideas of things that are going along. And one of the congressional people were there, I think it was from Johnson's office, said that, this was great. I can't believe, kind of like saying, I can't believe you're all getting together in the same thing to discuss this stuff, and more of these need to happen. And it was good. It was a good conversation. It wasn't long. It wasn't a 3-hour thing that sat there and everybody had an agenda to get through. It was just some good comment and a couple questions, and we were good. So I like that, and I think I'm glad I attended. So that's it.
Okay, Thomas?
Okay, March 27th, I went to the hospital board, and they had a special evening where they had ex officio from the city and county draw for a brand new Fenwick and a Dowie rod, real combination, and a $200 gift certificate from Cabela's. And thank you, Ryan. No, I'm kidding. Don't put that in there.
Let's see,
No, it was
200
good to go.
divided by 5.
They must make a presentation every time on one of their departments. It was the occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy department. And I had a couple concerns about some things that were going on, and Ryan explained to me. We had a conversation about it, and so I like the way the hospital's being run and the direction it's going. It was a good meeting. And I've been put on the Alumni Green project at SDSU, which is tearing down about 4 buildings altogether and a redesign of the campus on the west side. I thought I got put on there because of my expertise in hospitality management and design, and there will be food facilities and things, and I got my last minutes, and I'm listed as county, so I'm telling you. So that's my responsibility. So I'm telling you that as county commissioners, that's why I'm on there, I guess. And then planning and zoning, and Bob got, even though there was 2 variances and 2 conditional uses and 1 plat, Megan, I always blame Bob for these late meetings, but we managed to leave before midnight, I think, this time. So we delayed a few things, and the comprehensive plan, Bob, do we have another date coming up? I don't have one on my calendar. Do you have it, Robert? That's continuing a work in progress, and for the Planning and Zoning Board Commission to go through. And we continue to have interesting conversations. Now, Dennis, you've been on the planning and zoning, Stephanie? Oh, and meetings, yeah. Well, it's got me thinking about a lot of things about our zoning and ordinances and things, and I think we'll have an interesting discussion when that time comes, the 35-acre thing, some of our setback requirements. I've been asked, Megan, to look into other counties, because sometimes we have a lot of variances for things that wouldn't be variances in other counties. And I want to protect people's neighborhoods, I want to protect the neighbors, I want to protect our county roads and things, but I don't want unnecessary government regulation on a private property where they plant a tree or something, you know, in their yard, unless it's going to infringe on somebody else. I mean, that seems what the purpose of it is, but we'll see how it goes. But we continue to have interesting meetings, and that's it.
Thank you. I note with pleasant surprise the smile you put on Commissioner Krogman's face when you said you didn't need unnecessary regulation. Okay, I think some of it, reports get a little bit redundant by the time we get to the last one. I had the government affairs meeting at the chamber, and Larry Tiedemann gave a very good recap of the legislative session in regards to those issues that probably were more important to the business community than maybe local governments. Then I had the EPA meeting, advisory board meeting, and very interesting. We forward letters of recommendation on various issues. Can't believe we even talked about the new technology in wood stoves, and I come to realize that a lot of people heat with wood in parts of the United States, not here so much, but in a lot of areas they do. And we talked about the waters and the decisions that have been made in regarding to the waters, and I think we probably came out quite well on that, probably as good as we can expect at this point, and Secretary Vilsack even mentioned the same thing. So at least we haven't lost ground in regards to jurisdiction on our waters and so forth. And then there were several other things, and I mentioned earlier, and I'm not going to go into detail, but our chair was one of those that found out what sustainability and resilience is all about, and he's got a short presentation he had along with him, and so a couple of us went up to his hotel room, and he gave it over on his computer. Really interesting to see a community from today and their nice little main street, and this evening, and there's nothing but rubble, and what they had to do to pick up and start all over, and everything they went through. So Bob, all the planning that you talk about, and sometimes it gets a little boring sitting here listening to you talk about it, but I tell you what, it's pretty meaningful stuff, and for the benefit of our citizens, we better have plans in place. And at our LAPC meeting, we talked about the other fire station as a backup command center. This community, if that same storm would have hit Brookings, that command center wouldn't have done us any good because they'd have both been gone. You know, so what do you do when something like that wipes you out? So it really makes you think. Then, of course, we attended the Rail Authority meeting, and Stephanie touched on that, as did Dennis. Well, Dennis was en route, but he was on the phone, so he knew what we were doing in regards to the Novita potential loan, which isn't going to be needed now, and so that was what our action was to notify the state that won't be needed at this point in history. And also, we're going to we need a new member on that board, and so we're in the process of advertising and getting our bylaws all set up. And Abby was there, and she's got that well in hand, I'm sure. Then the legislative luncheon in the intergovernmental affairs meeting. Yes, David Owen is always entertaining, but I think it was a very productive intergovernmental affairs meeting, in as much as it didn't take long at all, but we got an idea what everybody is doing and where everybody's headed. And those kind of brief meetings can be very important to us in the future. And maybe we should encourage Al Houghton to have, every time we have an opportunity, that there's a session or a luncheon or something that a lot of those folks are there, that we should just get together for 15, 20 minutes afterwards and update everybody. I thought it was very productive. And then I guess we were invited as commissioners to the pork crawl last night, and that was sponsored by Ag United. And they've done several of these in other towns. And would they have the poultry crawl or whatever in Huron, where they had, you had chicken and turkey, I think. Or in Sioux Falls, they had a poultry this year where you went to 3 or 4 different restaurants for different portions of your progressive supper, as I would call it, but it was poultry. So just an effort on their part to communicate with elected officials and other people what's going on in the ag industry. The one thing we're going to work on from the EPA meeting, hopefully we can get something put together, is we would like to get some of the environmental EPA officials from Washington, D.C. to come out here to Brookings and visit SDSU with all the research that's going on and some emphasis on Raven Industries precision agriculture, because it became very evident they did not understand what precision ag was and what it was all about, but they were interested in learning. So maybe we can get something like that put together. Maybe we can host something. So, all right, that's all I have. Is there, yes, Tom?
I did forget one thing. Stephanie kind of brought something up. Robert sent out his email about, what were we talking about, that I responded to something. It would end up being about the tornado warning. And there was some confusion in the community because the school district stopped their buses from running and put kids in. And then that night people said, well, why are they doing that if there's no tornado sirens? Well, I didn't even know there was a tornado warning because there wasn't any sirens. And Bob kind of explained, well, to you folks and to me, that you only do it where it's an affected area. Now, this site that you just pointed out can have weather alerts. Robert, you talked about working with the schools, sharing information, getting on the same page. Are we, is that a way of doing it, having them check this site to see what we know?
We have put every weather-related warning we've ever gotten on this website, except on Monday through Fridays, and now I've got access to be able to do it on the weekends. So we've been using this site continuously since it was put up.
Is that something the schools and some of the other, or Marty's guys, I mean, other agencies that would want to know what's going on? Is that something they work with you, or? The
issue, yeah, we can start advertising it when we go out to our briefings. You know, we can just tell people that we got it. But another thing, as I told you in the email, or maybe on the phone, I've got to work with the school resource officers, and they're going to have to go out and tell the schools what the county policy is. But the school, it's they're in charge of the children when they're in session, and it's their right to have their own policies and procedures. But what we did is what the Brookings County procedures are through our 911 center during that particular incident.
Other agencies like schools to be in the same know that you're in the know.
Well, I've got no problem giving them the information, but what we have to realize is they may not follow our lead in this particular instance, because they've got their concept of what they consider safe versus what our concept of safe is. But no, we'll be more than happy to work with the school resource officers to get into the schools, because that's the best way I found to get into the schools. I can call the principals and the superintendents all day long, but we've got law enforcement already in the schools. They've got their contacts. That's the approach I'm following to get the information to the schools, unless the board wants to direct me to go otherwise.
Marty, comment?
Well, I really didn't have that much. I think the alerts are good to put it out, and the school, city schools in Brookings decided that was their call. based on the information. They knew that there was a warning out, but it wasn't really affecting Brookings at the time. But they made a decision to hold the buses back, and so.
Okay, thank you. One other thing, did everybody get a copy of the general pesticide from DENR? I think you got one there,
Yes.
Denny,
I
didn't you?
put them on your desk this morning if they were in your, otherwise, if you had picked up your mail prior to today, you might have already picked it up.
Yeah, that's in there for your review. I know Gary Eggerberger will certainly be looking at it, so.
Yeah, we have a weed board meeting this afternoon, so I'm sure we'll
Okay.
be taking a good look.
Very good. Yes, Marty?
One more thing, just a clarification now on the 29th, us department heads are supposed to meet with you on this, on,
I'm going to send out an email to everybody on it.
okay. And then what's May 5th and 6th?
The 6th was the strategic planning date,
Okay,
and we won't need that date. I'll have to send updated calendar
okay,
appointments.
okay. And this will be on the 29th. I'm leaving for Rapid City that day for the sheriff's conference, but I want to make sure I'm here for this, so.
You want me to put you down first?
That's what I was hitting
All right.
around.
I'll do that for you, Marty.
Okay, thank you.
We can meet at 4:35 in the morning if you'd like, so you can get on the road. Oh, okay. Okay, thanks, Marty. There being nothing else for the good of the order, declare the meeting adjourned.